innovation and tech ecosystem stakeholders, wadau wakuu, na wasalimu kwa jina la maendeleo. Asanteni sana. Naomba ni wasalimu tena, you looked unsure. Na wasalimu kwa jina la maendeleo. Aha, ndo jina la Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania. I hope you're well. Good evening. My name is Khalila Mboy. I'd like to welcome you to the 4th Innovation and Tech Forum. It's an incredible opportunity to be here once again, and the fact that we can keep this going since that first one that happened at COSTECH is incredible. I just want to ask you to give yourselves a round of applause for being here on a Friday when mngeweza kuwa mnajitayarisha kuruka majoka. Rush hour. Asante sana. Hongereni sana. I just want to let you know that we're going to start in the next 2 minutes. Our guest of honor as well as other guests are on their way down. When they arrive, I'm going to ask for us to adhere to protocol, and we're going to stand and give them a hand of applause as they take their seats, and we're going to start officially. As is normal, I'm going to ask you to take photos, post them online, tag. I'll share the hashtags in a bit, but get ready to take photos, as many as possible. If you want to tag me, I'm at Kelsmboy. Also tag Media Convergency, hashtag Digital and Innovation Forum. Karibuni sana. Let's have a good time. Au sio? Watu mmenuna sana. Let's have a good time. Is that okay? Au ni kwamba zile nyimbo zilikuwa bado hazina vibe? From my understanding, the innovation and tech ecosystem kidogo, we are agile, and agility and flexibility brings in a little bit of fun. So let's have fun. DJ, ebu tupe nyimbo kidogo ya kumsindikiza mgeni rasmi anavyoingia ndani.
It's so easy. Connecting, yeah. Hey, ha. Boy, ameno. Ameno. Okay, I take back here. DJ, give me na ya cool here. Let me tell them how the thing goes. How the thing goes. Okay. Shebe make a tamua. Say my picking I go join God. You want to bamba? You wanna G with the big boys? Now you the wrong, get it, you the wrong, get enough with drink with a drop cup. Hey, so you see how the thing goes? How the thing goes? Oh, you tell them I hope and you. And who? Alright, take it easy, and let's play some behind the waist. Okay.
May I ask for everybody in the back to please take your seats as we have our guest of honor arriving shortly. Naombeni to Kai. There are seats right here in the table to my left. Karibuni sana, karibuni sana. May I ask you to fill the table? May I ask you to fill this table first, and then we'll fill the one in the back with guest talk. All right, after. Santeni.
You want to bamba? You wanna G with the big boys? Now you the wrong, get it, you the wrong, get enough with drink with a drop cup. Hey, Jabba, you see how the thing goes? I said, tell me who blends you. And who? Okay. judge for they can do. Cause it's the father to the fatherless, a mother to the motherless, and nothing no one can do. But promise not to fight again, not to do anything that we hurt again. Cause if you do, let me see you don't talk again. And another time you go on again, that's what. Chebe make a tamua. Say my kina go join God. You want to bamba? You wanna cheat with the big boys? Now you the wrong, get the kitty, you the wrong, get a coffee drink with a drop cup. Hey, you see how you go.
Hello once again. Habari za jioni mabibi na bwana. Good evening ladies and gentlemen. I do know I said we'll start in 2 minutes. It's past 2 minutes and I just want to prove that I am not a liar. So I'm coming back to you again so we can engage in a little bit of a conversation. Is that okay? So the thing about me having the mic, kawaida napendaga tuzungumze kidogo. For how many is it the first Innovation and Tech Forum? Just put your hand up. Okay, let me ask another question. How many of you took a shower this morning? The shower ni mkono unaenda hivi. Sasa hapa mimi sielewagi hii ni nini. Hii ni kwamba like I'm sure, I'm not sure. So how many for how many is this the first Innovation and Tech Forum? So I'll forgive you because you don't know protocol. Over here we have fun. So over here we talk, we converse. Mike Shobo tuza hapa na pale. Lakini tunazungumza, so feel free to engage, feel free to take as many photos, feel free to ask questions, feel free to participate. This is the 4th Innovation and Tech Forum. Kama kawaida, kama ni jadi yetu, tunahakikishaga kwamba we make this an incredible networking experience. So before just sharing what I'd like us to do, ningependa kuuliza swali and see if you can answer me. Mko tayari? Mko tayari? Mbona kama hamna hakika? Haya. Mimi nitauliza alafu utajibu. Unajua ile ukikuta kwenye mtihani una swali alafu you have to fill in the blanks. You ready? Haya. You want to bam bam? Sasa mbona mnanizunguka? Haya, tujaribu tena. You want to bam bam? Mbona hamna uhakika? Mbona hamna uhakika? Au hii marking scheme watu hawajaielewa? Hawajaielewa? Tutarudia tena. You want to bam bam? Hapo sasa. There we go. Ile alafu tunaendelea vipi pale mbele? You want to? You want to bam bam, you want to chill with the big boys, girls, alafu you wanna rock kitty kitty, you wanna rock kitty kitty. Kata kata. And so on and so forth. Just really quickly, I'd like to let you know that the washrooms, in case you're looking for somewhere to wash your face, what you'll do is you'll go outside the door right behind us, the same door that we came in with. You'll find somebody there who'll easily usher you to where the area that you can wash your hands is. Again, I'm going to repeat. We are online right now, and if you'd like to kindly take photos right now, let people know ambao hawapo hapa that I am at the Innovation and Tech Forum. When I say I, it doesn't mean me, like you. You're talking about yourself. So you're writing on your page, I am at the Innovation and Tech Forum. Hashtag Innov and Tech Forum. So that's INNOV Tech TECH Forum FORUM. Doesn't mean that I don't think you can spell. I was just spelling it out. Is that okay? Sasa tujaribu tena. Mgeni rasmi akija nitaomba kama nilivyowaambia awali that tutapiga makofi, tutasimama na kupiga makofi. Naomba tu practice yale makofi kidogo. So, ladies and gentlemen, you don't have to stand up. Ladies and gentlemen, a hand of applause for the guest of honor. Sasa unaona hayo ni makofi ya kichoyo. Makofi ya kichoyo because wewe sio GOH. Jamani tujaribu tena. Ladies and gentlemen, a hand of applause for the guest of honor. Umeona. Sasa where you are, you just need to go higher kidogo. Yaani hapo tulikuwa tunajaribu. Hiyo ilikuwa ni part 1 of the Nigerian movie. Inabidi tufike part 3. Au sio? Season 4. Sawa. Ni ile season 4 ambao una plot imeisha muda mrefu sana and you're wondering, mbona I'm still watching A Golly Place of Gold. All right? Without further ado, I'd like to let you know that we are on pause. All right, a little bit of a correction on those hashtags. So it's hashtag Innotech Forum, hashtag INNOTECH Forum, FORUM. Innotech Forum, hashtag Mitandao TZ, MITANDAO TZ. DJ nikiwa nazungumza, naomba yani kamuziki unisindikize kwa mbali, usikitoe kabisa. Asante. Shusha kidogo zaidi. Just there. I'm following up on what's keeping our guest, and I will come back to you in a few minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, as I promised, our guest of honor is about to enter the room. May I please ask that we stand up to our feet and applaud as him and his entourage enter the venue. Tafadhali naombeni tusumame, tupige makofi kwa mgeni rasmi. This is none other Karibuni sana. Entering the space, this is none other than Asha Abinala, CEO, Media Convergency. With her is Honorable Neema Lugangira, MP and Chair, African Parliament Network on Internet Governance. We have with us our chief guest, Dr. Jim Yonazi, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Information, Communications and IT. Mr. Joseph Manirakiza, who is the UNDP Funguo Innovation Program Manager. Dr. Mkundwe Moses Mwagsaga, Director General, ICT Commission. Mr. Amos Ndugu, Director General, COSTECH. Dr. Jabir Bakari, Director General, Tanzania Communications Regulatory Authority. Ms. Justina Mashiba, CEO, Universal Communication Services Access Fund. And we also have with us Mr. Sergio Valdini, who is the Deputy Resident Representative, UNDP Tanzania. Tafadhali, makofi kwao. Makofi aliyoshiba. Let us showcase kwamba the innovation and tech ecosystem has a vibrancy to it. Karibuni sana. May I please ask you to take your seats? Once again, karibuni sana, karibuni sana. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Honorable guest of honor, Dr. Jim Yonazi, karibu sana. Dr. Amos Ndugu, karibu sana. And all invited guests, you're very duly welcome. Welcome to the 4th Innovation and Tech Forum. There was 1, there was 2, there was 3, and this is the 4th. Karibuni sana. My name is Khalila Mbowe. I am the country director for Girl Effect Tanzania, as well as the founding director for Unleashed Africa Social Ventures, and I will be your host for today. Naomba tuanze kwa kupasha kidogo makofi. Naomba tupashe. Naomba ni tupashe. Tupashe zaidi kama tunamaanisha. Very nice. Naomba tuchape. Again. Sasa tuanze kupiga makofi kidogo. Like a little bit louder. You're here. Let's go. Hey, tupande kidogo. Panda. Yani like you. For sasa. And that is the fire that's within the Innovation and Tech Forum. We are always transforming, always moving forward, always transitioning, but never stagnant. Right? Because the development of this country hangs on our being able to find the solutions to the problems that we're here to address. So once again, karibuni sana to the 4th Innovation and Tech Forum. If this is your first one, you are in for a treat. If you have been along the journey from the first to now the 4th, karibu once more. Just want to remind you, do make sure that you're engaging digitally. Share whatever you stands out to you online. #InnoTech Forum, #Mitandao Tanzania. Karibuni sana once again. And now without further ado, I'd love to welcome the CEO of Media Convergency, Asha Abinala, for introductions and to share a little bit about the Innovation and Tech Forum with all of us. Asha Abinala, karibu sana. Makofi yaliyoshiba kwake tafadhali.
Hello everyone. Kabla sijasalimia, so the first thing watu wakiuliza, mnaanza saa 11:30 hii ya Kiswahili ya Kizungu? And I usually say huwa ni ya Kizungu. Saa 11:30 mpaka saa 12 mnaingia, saa 12 na dakika 5 Halila huwa anafungua dimba. It has always been that way. I think for the first time, because watu wengi wameuliza, Mungu akanipa kiboko. Leo kuna mistake nilifanya, let me own up to the mistake. Tumechelewa kuanza kutokana na makosa miscommunication. We had communicated 2 venues. Nimeomba msamaha sana uko nje, nimeona niombe msamaha publicly. Nimetoa waalikwa nimewapeleka wrong venue mbali kabisa na hapa, they had to make it here again. I'm feeling very bad. Kwa hilo tu mnione huruma na kunisamehe. I apologize. Yeah, so good evening ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 4th Innovation and Tech Forum under the custodianship of the Tanzania Commission for Science and Technology, supported by UNDP through the Funguo Innovative Program and coordinated by Media Convergency. It is an honor, as always, to be standing here, served by the grace and power above all of us, the Almighty, the God Almighty. I would like to acknowledge the presence of our chief guest, Dr. Jim Yonas. His presence here shows he's really dedicated and really supportive of whatever is best for the ecosystem. Dr. Jimmy Yonas was our chief guest the past Innovation Tech Forum, and I would like to acknowledge that we don't take it for granted, and we really appreciate his efforts, dedication, and presence. I would further like to acknowledge Dr. Amos Ndungu, where the Innovation and Tech Forum started. We started at Boni Hub. I would like also to acknowledge Mr. Sergio Valdini, the UNDP Deputy Resident Representative. He's here for the first time, so we're so happy. We hope that you're going to be excited by it. Thank you so much for making it. I would also like to acknowledge Director General of ICT Commission, Mr. Mlembwa Mnako. I would also like to acknowledge the director of the ICT. Oh, I'm repeating myself. I would also like to acknowledge the director of ICT. And I also like to acknowledge the presence of the Member of Parliament and Chair of the African Parliamentary Network on Internet Governance, Nema Lugangira, the invited vibrant experts across the sectors who will grace us with their expertise today. And we promise that they are really experts and you're going to be excited by what they are going to present. We feel very honored that they've agreed to be part of this. The last, I would also like to acknowledge all those who came early and have been patient with us. Thank you very much, and everybody who has made it here to the meeting today. The last 3 forums have been physical participation, has seen physical participation growing at each convening. We started from 52 participants at Boni Hub, and with 95 participants at the last Innovation and Tech Forum right here at Coral Beach. The last forum gave interest and fellowship of many interested parties who are interested for this nation and what is happening in the innovation and technology sector. But most importantly, we try our very best to make sure that we are updating as supposed, to make sure that everybody is looped in, to make sure that everybody knows what's going on, to make sure that we have all the reporting. We promise that we are doing a lot of monitoring and to making sure that the discussions are result-oriented. I'll give an example. We have several initiatives, but I'll give an example because Mr. Nguvi is here. One of the follow-up we are doing, we had submitted a letter to Vodacom from what had arose from the discussion, and Mr. Nguvi is working on it very closely. It's that has been a really positive, which will see positive impacts to startups. I won't explain further because everything is in the reports. We encourage for you to keep on following us at Innotech Forum, following the conversations, following all the information which is related. Otherwise, as usual, we say we would like to welcome each and every person who would like to be part of the forum, and we appreciate everyone who's already part of the forum. Asanteni sana, ninakiri kwamba nimeongea kwa kutetemeka sana. I have mismentioned some of the words, kwa hiyo naomba samahani, and thank you very much.
Acha makofi ya kichoyo. Wewe unacheza na kusimama hapa mbele. Jamani, another round of applause to Asha Binala and the team at Media Convergency for consistently pulling off the Innovation and Tech Forum and for doing a grand job in making sure that we are updated. Asanteni sana for creating this space so that we can come along. And without further ado, I'd love to welcome to the stage none other than the Director General for COSTECH. This is Dr. Amos Ndugu for opening remarks. Makofi kwake tafadhali. Karibu sana, Dr. Amos Ndugu. Hapo sasa, unaona sasa, nilikuwa nataka kuonyesha daktari kwamba kukosea ni kawaida, ni Amos Nungu. Umeona? Asante sana.
Kukosea ni kawaida. Asante. Ndugu zangu, ni habari za jioni. Kama nilivyotambulishwa, nafikiri ndugu ni wa Kenya, ndungu. Majority speak Swahili, but we have Mr. Sagio. Do you follow Swahili? Kidogo kidogo. Asanteni sana. Kwanza tuna mgeni wetu Dr. Jimmy Onaz, katibu mkuu Wizara ya Mawasiliano, Habari, Mawasiliano na Teknolojia. Jina gumu kidogo. Lakini tuna Mheshimiwa Neema Rugakingira. Kwa hiyo tunashukuru uwepo wako, inatupa hamasa kwa wote. Pia Mr. Sagio ambaye ni Deputy Resident Representative UNDP. Tuna Dr. Jabiri Bakari, basi jamuona akifika. Tunaamini yuko njiani anakuja. Mkurugenzi mkuu TRA, Dr. Nkundo Mwasaga, mkurugenzi mkuu wa ICT Commission. Dadangu Justina Yuksaf. Tuna Joseph Manirakiza ambaye amekuwa champion kwenye hii ecosystem. Asha ambaye anatuunganisha hapa. Lakini kwa jumla wake tuna wasogozi, naitwa siku hizi the panelist. Wasogozi. Yes, yeah. All the panelists in the room. Ndugu yangu Mnakumlembwa, mkurugenzi wa ICT wizarani, na wadau wote kwa ujumla, mabibi na mabwana, habari za jioni. Na wasalimu kwa jina la Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania. Kwa kweli kama ilivyosemwa, hii ni awamu ya 4 ya kukutana angalau kuangalia kwamba tunafanya nini. Kama nilivyosema, ni Innovation and Tech Forum. Na nikiangalia chumba kimesheheni, wengine wako online wanafuatilia. Tunapata faraja kwamba tunatembea pamoja, au tuna mengi tunatamani yatokee zaidi na zaidi. Sasa nilivyoona ile title ambayo ililetwa kwa ajili ya kufanywa mjadala leo, kwa ajili ya kufanya tafakuri leo, na mimi nikajiuliza kwamba nafahamu kwa ndugu yangu Daktari Jimmy Onaz wanaliangalia hili swala kwa upana sana, tutasikiza baadaye. Lakini nikafikiria kwamba hivi pale COSTECH tunafanya nini kwenye hii the digital we want. Nikasema kwenye utafiti kidogo, nadhani hii tumeiachia sana, kama vile sio haipo kwenye kwenye the mainstream ya utafiti. Iko zaidi kwamba siniseme haina mvuto, au tunaashumu kwamba kinaeleweka. Hata nikiangalia huko ndani naona sioni watafiti pase wale wa vyuo vikuu. Ndio maana nikaanza kujiuliza kama ni kwamba kuna uwezekano ile positioning kama ni kwamba ICT digital is equal to business straight away. Kwa sababu kama nilitoka COSTECH tumefadhili kidogo, lakini ipo kwenye kilimo, mifugo. Sasa nimekuja najiuliza hapa kwa maana kwamba how tunaongelea ubunifu the ecosystem Silicon Da, lakini yote kwenye utafiti pase sijaiona. Kasema labda pia in addition kwamba I'm very proud of the work being done in the ecosystem. His hubs, accelerators, incubators zinafanya kazi kubwa sana. Na pia niseme at least nafahamu DIT kidogo, UDOM, Nelson Mandela. Kuna kazi zipo zinaendelea, lakini nadhani kuna homework ya kuifanya kusudi hii iwe inclusive na isiwe kwamba unapoongelea digital, yes tuongelee makampuni ya simu, tuongelee wizara peke yake, sisi wengine ni watumiaji. Ama ni wizara na vyombo vyake, wizara, TCRA, ICT Commission. Lakini nadhani Dr. Flora, I don't know, mtafiti upo? Yes, lakini umekuja kwa kofia uzoefu wako. Nadhani nimechelewa kuja hapa kwa sababu pia nilikuwa na submit proposal IDRC, and hopefully itapita, ambayo nataka yote iende kwenye hizi emerging technologies. Angalau sasa sisi tulioko kwenye chumba hiki tufanye kazi na vyuo vikuu watafiti, angalau nao kuwaleta pamoja, kwa maana ya kwamba tusidhani kwa maana ya kwamba tunapoongelea innovation maana yake ni vijana. Tunapoongelea emerging technologies straight, maana yake ni emerging technologies is equal to innovation, full stop. Lakini kesho yake ikoje tunapoangalia kwa upana ule na mipango yetu ya nchi kwa ujumla wake? Nirudi tu kusema kwamba nashukuru tumeitikia mwito kwa nguvu sana. Nashukuru wizara, katibu mkuu na timu nzima. Ndio maana amenasema nipo COSTECH, lakini huwa napongelea tunapoangalia hii digital. Nashukuru kama umekuja na timu yako, TCRA, mfuko wa mawasiliano kwa wote, hapa ICT Commission. At least from that angle tunaangalia kwa upana wake. Lakini kama nilivyosema, kusudi kesho yetu iwe nzuri, tunapoongelea blockchain tusiashumu kwenye from the risk point of view only. Watafiti pia waweze kutuambia kwamba in addition to the risk, what are the good aspects and how can we go beyond the risk, how can we mitigate. Sasa hizo tapata confidence kama tukiambiwa na vyuo vikuu vyetu, kwa maana ya kwamba yes there is a risk but we have to swim because the floor is now. If you come tomorrow we'll be late. Otherwise takuwa na vijana wachache who they are daring because they have nothing to lose, lakini the rest we are not comfortable because no one is giving us the assurance. Nimalizie kwa kusema asanteni sana kwa ujumla wetu wote, kwa sababu bila sisi kujitokeza na kushiriki, ina maana hili jukwaa linakuwa sio chochote, halina ile mvuto, halina ile impact inayokusudiwa. Kitu kukutana hivi, tukajadiliana, tukabadilishana mawazo, tukapeana changamoto na namna kuzitatua, then kwa ujumla tunatoka tukiwa tumewiva zaidi na kuiangalia kesho kwa taswira tofauti. Asanteni sana na karibuni sana. Niwatakie majadiliano mema. Karibuni.
Makofi tena kwa Dr. Nungu. Wengine walikuwa nasubiri nikosee. Hajatokea. Thank you very much, Dr. Nungu. We must challenge ourselves. Tutoke hapa tumewiva. Lakini pia tumepatiwa challenge kwamba kuna perhaps wengine ambao ni muhimu sana wawepo kwenye haya mazungumzo ambao labda we are there missing, looking at how we can think about being as inclusive as possible, and that's mentioning academicians, researchers. How can we make sure that those who work on monitoring, evaluation, learning, data collection are also involved in the conversation, so that we are as inclusive as possible, tuweze tupate michakato and solutions that are full. Now, without further ado, I'd love to move us along to a panel discussion that we are about to have. Now, this panel discussion is looking at the kind of digital Tanzania we need, opportunities, challenges, and questions brought about by digital transformation in Tanzania. We have a panel of expert contributors that I'm going to call to the stage, but before they come up, may I please ask, if you are here and you perhaps need a notebook to write on, we didn't put them on the tables, please put up your hand and our team will come and hand over the notebooks to you. Kama uko hapa na unahitaji a notebook, tafadhali weka mkono juu na team itakuja kukupatia. Labda give me 30 seconds nikae hapa nihakikishe kwamba wote wamepata. There are some who need notebooks on the tables here, table back there, table right there. Nadhani itakuwa ni notebooks and pens. So far nimehesabu kama 8. If you still, okay, so here we go, there we go. All right, okay. Just to make sure that you're all covered. All right, now without further ado, I'd love to take a moment to invite our panel of experts to the stage as the team works to make sure that you have your notebooks. I'm going to start with none other than a person that was referenced by Dr. Nungu, an incredible woman that is on our panel today. She has worked in East Africa and across the continent, and so she is an expert in the innovation ecosystem. I do believe that you're very modest about what you have done. Lakini, you carry a wealth of experience, and I'm excited to see what we can learn from you. This is none other than Dr. Flora Ismail, who is the board member of DigiLogic and the former program director for the Southern African Innovation Support Program. Makofi kake tafadhali. Dr. Flora, tafadhali to the stage. Next, we have a seasoned entrepreneur, somebody who has ushered and shaken a lot of things within the innovation and tech ecosystem in Tanzania. He is none other than the founder of Innovation Hub 255. This is Mr. Jones Mrusha, technology executive. Makofi kwake tafadhali. Huyu ni disruptor. Then we have none other than Ms. Risha Chande. She is the Director of Advocacy and Engagement at Twaweza. Ms. Risha Chande has been an advocate in this area for a long time. We have heard her voice. Makofi kwake tafadhali. She is a wealth of knowledge in the NGO space and beyond. Now we're going to move swiftly to the Director of Digital and VAC. at Vodacom Tanzania. This is none other than Mr. Nguvu Kamando. Sio Mandonga. Mr. Nguvu Kamando is a seasoned expert in the space, and he has consistently been an advocate for growth within the ecosystem. Asante na karibu sana. Lastly but not least, this is none other than Mr. Peter Kisa Baziwe. He is the president at Information System Audit and Control Association. This is the Tanzanian chapter of ISACA. Karibu sana, Mr. Peter Baziwe. Now we're going to practice yale makofi niliyozungumzia pale mwanzoni. Tafadhali a hand of applause to the panel. Asanteni sana. Just going to ask once again, anybody who needs a notebook, please put your hand up if it hasn't come to you. There's a lady right here. Please just keep your hand up so they see you. Sasa if you do this, nobody mtu hataona. Tungejaribu kunyoosha kidogo mkono juu hapo sasa. Okay, so there are two ladies right here. And perhaps as she's moving along, you can prompt her to come over to you. I'd also like to introduce the moderator of this panel. This is none other than myself, Halil Ambor, Country Director of Girl Effect and Founding Director at Unleashed Africa Social Ventures. So to kind of tease us into the conversation today, I'm going to start by reminding you that if anything does stand out to you, please do post it on your social media page, #Inotech Forum, #MitandaoTZ. Now, considering tumechelewa kidogo, nadhani mazungumzo ambao we're about to have, I do remember kuchanganya lugha. We're all Could I have a different mic? And may I please yes. Perhaps let me just stand here. This mic is acting up. I'll just go straight to questions. That's what we do within the ecosystem. We were pivoting on plans. Ya kwanza ilikuwa kidogo Okay. So the immense promise that the digital revolution poses for Tanzanian development cannot be overemphasized or overstated. So far, several initiatives, innovations, and interventions have been developed to prepare Tanzanians to leverage off of the rise of digital to propel our collective progress in all areas, specifically in human capital development, public service delivery, healthcare, legal framework management, education, information dissemination, and so forth. Across the board, sectors have leveraged on digital to build efficiencies and evaluate success indicators and productivity. Apart from complementing and strengthening the growth of various sectors, this new wave, that's the digital space, has also spearheaded the development of completely new industries and ways of thinking around problem solving and solving issues. So basically I call this solutioning, right? But alas, as with every new phenomenon, alongside opportunities lie challenges. Within the critical space, the challenges therein are plethora in form and can become parasitic in nature if we do not tackle them systematically, decisively, and most importantly, collectively. As what we are tackling today can either be one of the two. It can either be an asset or a liability. The onus, however, of where it becomes is on us. So the reflection we have to tackle at this juncture is who is the us? You know, and what unique roles can we individually play to ensure not only the proper execution, but also collective planning and strategizing around how to harness the potential therein. We can either become those people who point fingers to the government to do 1, 2, 3, or make sure that we commit to ourselves being individual players in ensuring that we're propelling this conversation forward in any what way. From political will to actual policies and execution, from problems to ideas and executable sustainable solutions, from implementation to adequate monitoring of actions, to ensure proper learning and pivoting where need be to enhancement on trust and security on digital spaces, all working towards a common goal. We all have a role to play. That is our task. So in starting, I am going to start from Dr. Flora and move on to Mr. Peter. My question to you is, with your background and experience and context in mind, what 3 priorities do you believe are necessary to consider as pillars as we embark on unpacking a digital Tanzania? What are the 3 priorities that you believe we must consider, using your context in mind, as we unpack a digital Tanzania? Tutaanza na Dr. Flora and move on steadily to Dr. Peter. And with that, perhaps you will take 30 seconds to introduce yourself and your work and take a minute to answer that question, and we can move steadily along.
Starting with me. Thank you very much for the invitation to participate in this onerous panel, which I totally humbled to be sitting amongst great minds. I am Flora. I am an academic from the University of Dar es Salaam, a simple scientist, trying to be. I worked with COSTECH. Dr. Nungu knows me from there. I worked in the Southern African Innovation Support Program, with 5 other African governments trying to build ecosystems, and this was quite transformative, so I'll just stop there and we can talk later. I think for us, or for me, 3 things are very important. Human capital, your capacity, not just what you know, your ability to absorb. I think that's very, very important. You can have all the technologies in the world, but if your economies cannot absorb them, then you have a little bit of a stumbling block there. Another thing that's extremely important and also alluded to by Dr. Nungu is your network. How do we actually form this binding collaboration between the different players in the ecosystem, from academia, civil society, the communities that we intend to serve, the end user? How do we really make that a conversation that we all speak the same language and we understand what it is when we talk about digital? The third thing is obviously the infrastructure. We need to have the policies, the processes, the business models that would allow us to get to our end goal. So I'll stop there.
All right, thank you. Ms. Amrusha.
Are you sure you want me to add anything after this, or should we save some time? It's a very unfortunate position to be. But I think, in other words, if I must, she said everything. There could have been 3 C's, but I'll mention 2 just to underline what she alluded before. One, which is the biggest, is collaboration. We cannot underestimate that. It's good that we sit in the same room and have these discussions, but if we don't lift up our legs and hands and work together, it will be another story, another funding, another potential that we never fully explored. End of story. Every other advancement in the digital space, in the digital economy, collaboration happened. Not for the sake of checklist that we're actually doing this. They went in and asked tough questions, got their feet mud, and they built together. The second is capacitate. I'm taking a pause for us to reflect. We talk about building all these amazing tools where you have few that were lucky enough to go to good schools, or they were exposed to things that triggered their curiosity, and they build systems, they build products and services, but it's not serving our people. It's not serving that cousin of ours, that distant uncle of ours that we all have either at home, either in Dar es Salaam or elsewhere where we come from. So we need to work together as much as we do invest efforts into engineers, product builders, regulators that understand the ecosystem. We also need to work harder to bring those that potentially, if we don't put a COWI, as Nguvu will I will name it. I've seen Dr. Yonazi dip in Tanga, where you have villagers coming in and is putting in a mast to connect the villagers. In Handeni, where there would have been no network. Unless we do that work, it won't happen. So capacitate our people, be skills, be connectivity, be strengthening on the last mile. That must be done. I will leave the other C. I'm sure it's going to come from wonderful panelists here.
Thank you so much. So I'm Risha Chande, as Kalila has said, from Twaweza. So I also started with a very similar list to Dr. Flora, so I'm quite glad I decided to go a slightly different way, not so far. So I'm going to frame it slightly differently. So for me, number one is an idea of freedom. And what I mean by that is kind of this idea of freedom to fail, freedom to tinker, freedom to iterate, a freer regulatory environment, because this is a space in which we're kind of learning by doing, learning as we go. And so we really need that idea that we need to be free to kind of fall down, to make mistakes, and to really try things out. So for me, that's really critical. And I wanted to just share a bit of teaser data that we're releasing next week. So we have a statistic, 80% of citizens agree with the statement that in this country taxes are high and they can hinder business growth. That's just in general, not in particular in this space, but I think that kind of shows that maybe we're not quite there with that sort of idea of freedom. The second one is, I think has been mentioned, this idea of partnership, collaboration, the network, however we want to frame it. I think, this idea of kind of one entity owning this type of transformation is impossible. I think we do all actually indeed have to work together. It's been said very eloquently by my colleagues. And the last one I've framed as attitudes or mindsets. And I think this is really wide. It goes from kind of seeing the potential, what can be done so that we can imagine even better and bigger. But it also includes, skills around digital citizenship and understanding. Even when we use social media, we're very civilized people when we engage with each other in person, but sometimes we lose some of that when we go online. I think even those kinds of things matter, right? And I think another one is also, I'll talk more about this a bit later, but what I would call kind of digital approaches, this idea of, starting with problems, again, being able to iterate, being able to say, okay, maybe I got this totally wrong, I need to go back from the beginning. So I think attitudes really matter as well. Thank you.
Hello. Okay, I think for me, it all comes from the fundamentals that Vodafone has been built over the years, and this really relies on the three pillars that we believe first in digital society, where the C that John started is there, but not only the first T of connectivity, but also connectivity for what? You should have use cases, you should have platforms that really puts those infrastructure into reality by providing solutions that are addressing the needs in the society. The second pillar is on inclusion for all. Whatever we do, we should ensure that it doesn't really cover to a certain kind of people, the right ones, or those in towns, or those with different needs that are not into consideration. And the last one is, of course, the planet where we are. So we need not to have solutions at the cost of our planet. We need to ensure that we really act not on boardrooms in terms of the likes of commitment on reduction of carbon dioxide sector, but it should be reality. And this leads into the fact that for us, we see that human capital, as Dr. Said, that we see that technology without human is nothing. And for that, we want to connect for better future. And that ends into our motto, into our vision that Vodacom is here to lead Tanzania into digital age by changing people's lives through technology. And with all those, we believe we can really make Tanzania at the digital where we are. I think let me end there because I can expand further and further. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm called Peter Kisa. I'm also called veteran by people who know me in the industry, I'm mostly a cybersecurity and technology auditor. So my perspective with the C's will be cybersecurity. Tukizungumzia cybersecurity, it cuts across almost all your technologies. But these days, we do not say cybersecurity. What we say is trust and assurance. Kwa hiyo, you'll allow me interchange both Swahili and English. Kwa hiyo tukisema kwamba tuna mifumo, which we all need, lazima to trust hiyo mifumo. So for us at ISACA, we talk about trust and bringing digital assurance to all information systems. There'll be no point having mifumo if I'm given a parking ticket when I didn't move my car for the last month when I was in holiday, Moshi, lakini nikirudi na parking ticket mbili. Zinasema nilikuwa wapi? Mbeya, nini. So we're at a stage where we're implementing systems, we're using technology, but for me the key thing is, can we trust the system? Does the system work as it should? And is it secure? If our systems are secure, then we are hoping our data will be secure. Asante.
Asante sana. Asante sana. So the few things cut across, right? The call for partnerships and collaboration cannot be overstated. It has come across in all your interventions. And Mr. Peter, I like the fact that I also use trust in my question. I now feel like a cybersecurity expert as well. I didn't know, but now I feel things. Asante sana. Human capital, but not just thinking about human capital in terms of skills, but also your ability to absorb. That's a massive one. Talked about networks, of course, the infrastructure policies, and so forth. But then there's this aspect of freedom, which is quite new in how we frame our thinking. Attitudes and mindsets is something that perhaps we have heard. But then, Mr. Nguvu, you brought up the idea of inclusion for all, because it is very easy to replicate the exclusions offline, online, right? But then, umetukumbusha kuhusu planet. So I'm just reiterating those so that we can reflect as they answer the next questions, and perhaps as you're writing your prompts, you can also be reflecting on what you will use in tweaking your thinking around the work that we all collectively do heading out. Now, Dr. Flora, I'm going to come back to you. I'm going to first start by laying out a bit of context for everybody in the room, then I will share my question. In terms of context, among the incredible opportunities that digital presents us is the potential to catapult the creation of jobs for young people to meet the bulging unemployment crisis. On one hand, COVID-19 served to leapfrog digital innovations and wider buy-in on how this can help us maintain social and economic well-being in the midst of shocks. But on the other hand, it threw a curveball that forces us to reflect keenly on how we can create structures that ensure social security for those who consider the digital space a haven for income generation. Most of the times when we're in this space, we don't talk about social security and protection, but it's a conversation that must be had. This in itself has, however, not been a conversation that has taken center stage on these platforms. In your experience working with entrepreneurs and innovators, do you believe that social security for innovations and entrepreneurs has been a consideration, and should it? How then can we transform our thinking, current structures, and perhaps policies to ensure we're creating a layer of social protection for young people who are rushing into the digital economy for their livelihoods?
Thank you. That's a loaded question. And a question I think that's not just for this space, but almost every other space where we have a black swan event. And I think in every single sector, was affected by COVID-19. And so social protection applies across the board. But when you talk about those who want to enter the digital, seems is acting up, doesn't want to hear my answer. So in the digital space, maybe if I hold it closer to my mouth. So what would I say about the young people who are trying to enter this space. What did COVID-19 do? And I'll share two stories from the experience that we had in the program that I worked with. One was where we had a project that at the start of our support, they piloted a virtual accelerator. And for us, it was like, okay, this is wishy-washy, but let's try it because we were doing market validation. So we want to say, would the market look at this? Would this be a product that the market would think about going forward? And lo and behold, COVID-19 came and they scaled. They turned around and said, we don't need any more funding. We have more than we need because the demand was that high. So it can go either way is what I'm trying to say. Another one where we had a project that had integrated technology, but it was working with underserved, so girls who were in very compromising situations, and what they were doing they were doing for them was providing them with access to desktops. But COVID-19 hit, and that meant gatherings were prohibited. And what that happened, that went the other way. So both digital, but depending on what kind of digital service was being provided or support was being provided, it can go either way. The same service, same end goal. They both had the objective to start up new businesses, to set these young people on their feet, but one was virtual, one was physical, and it went in very different directions. So what kind of social protection do you provide? With the ones what's physical, you try and do things that you do for every other sector, give them the security that they need. Was it transport? Was it food in the house? And programs like ours, or programs that do provide support, don't come with that kind of budget. So then they're left to fend like every other person. So it's a tricky thing, and the only answer I could give is like case by case. And governments, at least in the Southern African region, did different things, very different things. There was no uniformity. It was a time when, despite there was a meeting in SADC, I think Ramaphosa called a meeting and asked governments, what are you doing? Everyone had a different answer of how he was addressing his own problems or her own problems at the time. So, sorry, no direct answer.
I don't think it's one of those things that it allows us to reflect, because if we're talking about the innovation and tech space, even amongst ourselves, an easy question would be, amongst innovators and entrepreneurs here, how many have health insurance? It's a very simple question, right? But one of the things that we've seen amongst the ecosystem, because of the hurdles to actually start up, things like health insurance as the last thing on your mind. But then that's something that's really important. So when we're thinking about social security, how can we expand to make sure that there are policies that foster or push different companies to create products for this space, because we need to secure our people. Now, moja kwa moja, Mr. Mrusha, I'm going to jump over to you with a reflection on that infamous one-stop service center that we have all been rallying for within the space for a long time. So the infamous one-stop center for registration and compliance for startup innovators and entrepreneurs. After continuous outcry from players, this is now an area that our government seeks to significantly invest into. The intention or the will is one thing. The capabilities to design and develop a well-functioning one-stop center brings several one-stop center bringing several agencies together is a completely different ballgame, right? Now the question is, in your expert opinion, what do you believe are the instrumental risks that must be managed as our government embarks in this direction? And also along the phases of impactful design, so what are the risks that must be managed along the phases of impactful design, development, and maintenance?
Thanks. Yet another loaded question. Shukran sana. No, but before I chip in what might not be very expert, but still an opinion, let me just jump in to the last example that you were giving. It's very important, and some of the people in the room, you probably remember when COVID hit us, one of the engineers that some of you have interacted, built stuff with, Ali, passed away. And the bill was at almost 40 million. For those that came through, but we were dry and we went to the public. And it's the same ecosystem that Charlie Farling Kerry that came together, and they've taken the burden off the family. So small reminders like those, they are very important, and I'm glad that your provoker reminds of the painful past that we've been, but also why is it important that we do act on these small asks. If we don't, we'll go back to what happened, and this is if lives were lost for us not to learn anything. So let's consider what she was proposing. To the question, sorry for taking. So at what stage should there be an involvement? I think, and this is bringing home to where we are missing it, is on how do we identify the issues. We seem to have imported problems when we try to formulate policies. We always make a lot of safe assumptions as if we don't have researchers. Just to say, because this problem do have an attraction and potential funding, let's go solve it. But is it really a problem? Or at least how we want to solve it to fit the available resources? So I would ask, and I've been asking again and again, it is very important that stakeholders, they are involved from problem or issues identification. Without it, we might be coming up with very good policies, strategies, but not solving our day-to-day problem. I'll give you an example. There's been a lot of noise today on Tanzania social sphere in regards to, no, not that one. In my I'm going, no, I'm not going on that side. I'm going on the Tozo side. But we do have, and I'm sure Nema will bring the Nguvu's problem later. When we look at the Tozos that everybody's been complaining about today, and we reflect on the National Financial Inclusion Strategy, there are two different things. They're contradicting. And it's there. It's ending this year. It's 2018-2022 strategy. Well written, experts involved. I'm not so sure if Dr. Yonazi were there then, but for those that met, knew how much we spent. How much of it is actually being utilized at the moment is questionable. Have we gone the other side? Yes, we have. And I think the problem was from the design, that we didn't anticipate there's going to be a time where huge investment will be needed to cover where taxes are failing to fill the gap, and we're going to resort to the means that we have, and one of the easiest is taxing our digital transactions. So if we had this included then, maybe we would have had compensating controls, to say the least, that would have helped us to handle the noises that do come about now. So if you look at the design, I think we are failing from identification. The rest, Dr. Flora will tell you, is textbook. We follow the same a customer journey that is being used world over, and we're very good at it. An example, as you just stated, Dr. Flora has done this for SADC and even more countries, and it works elsewhere. Our problem comes with identifying what is our issue, what is our problem in the Tanzanian context.
So then at what stage and in what capacity should innovation ecosystem players be pulled into the design process?
Why should they be pulled in? They should step in, knock that door. In.
At what capacity?
Even individual capacity. Mm-hmm. I mean, I would love at some point for Dr. Yonazi to have the microphone, because let's be honest, Doctor, 12 years ago, did we wait for invitation letters? No. We knocked them doors. We went everywhere. there wasn't a capacity. People would listen to us. You go to Magogoni, allow me to use that word, and they would think all the way up. They would think it's a very good idea. But there wasn't a budget. It wasn't something you would take to the parliament. Individuals had to come through, and we had few champions. And I'm going to repeat these names until they get to us. Dr. Kanza, our ambassador, at a personal capacity. Minister Makamba, at personal capacity. Dr. Yonazi, leaving the student at IFM, saying, we're going to do this. We had to go in. We begged to get a venue at Hyatt. Today, we're even confused. Too many venues. Hyatt or... I'm telling you, it's not a joke. Back then, we had to go in and beg. We had to bring in the minister to politely ask so that we could have a venue, because the only way Google will allow their people to come in is to stay at a hotel that is classified by their security. So let's go in and knock them doors. Don't wait to be invited. Sant.
Go in, knock them doors, don't wait to be invited. I love that. I'll actually come back to you later with the same question, perhaps to expound. And I'm going to jump over to you, Mr. Commando. Considering Mr. Mrusha has teased in Tozo pale, nataka niruke kwako. So Vodacom Tanzania has played a leading role in showcasing how innovation within the private sector can make outstanding contributions to the development sector, not as a sponsor or development for development activities, but rather an integral player and provider of services. And I'm looking at Mama and all the work that you're doing in that space. It is clear you understand the pertinent challenges that hinder the abilities of citizens to take advantage of the digital era. Please note how nafagilia Vodacom. From total lack of access to connectivity services to the inability to afford ever-changing data costs, because the data costs are never stagnant, to and or quality diversity, so the inability of people to, one, afford ever-changing data costs, their inability to afford quality devices, to the uncertainties prevalent in the ever-changing mobile money taxation landscape, and so forth. There is a reinforcement of existing social and economic inequalities offline that has been moved online. Now, nimeweka swali langu nimeanza na sasa. Is there a room for telecom giants such as Vodacom to provide an even playing field for citizens to leverage digital opportunities? What are the current initiatives at play, and what is coming up in the pipeline? How do we level the playing field in the light of so many social inequalities that are keeping people from actually taking advantage of the digital space?
Oh, another tough question. But again, I think it comes from the company beliefs in what we see, that there is huge opportunity in the digital economy, and Tanzania is one of the best country when it comes to other factors. You know, over 60% of our population is below 35 years old, and we are really eagerly waiting for the census that will give us more details in such a way that we'll be able to provide more solutions, more services. Now, at Vodacom, what do we do in terms of really giving reasons for customers and for the public in general, is to create a platform to provide solution in key sectors. You started on health, but it's not only on health. We do have solutions on agriculture, mobile money, entertainment, to mention a few. So what we've been doing is, how are we going to corroborate, as Doctor said, that and for us, we know that together we can. So we've been engaging with different stakeholders, including the government, of course, on delivering trainings. For example, we understand that to address inclusion for all, we need to look why girls are running away from science subject, the STEM. So with that, we have a program, it's called Like a Girl, whereby we've managed to cover 4 regions up to this point in time, Dar es Salaam, Arusha, Mwanza, and Dodoma, and over 1,306 young girls have been graduated from our program. And you cannot imagine, you know, for me, I think I'm one of the lucky individual, because I saw a computer the first time, the first user experience was when I was at University of Dar es Salaam.
1,306 over how many years?
2 years. Yeah. No, 4 years. We've been doing this data for the past 4 years, since 2018. But these young girls, the way they get to use the opportunity is unbelievable. I've been invited in 2 sessions, and some of the output from the program is massive. It's like they are pitching in front of investors. They've already done their websites. They are able to explain why they decided to such kind of website, etc. And to me, such stories will go and have a positive multiplier effect to the society. Over and above that, we also have graduate trainee programs that that is looking into not only getting those into our company, but also to train them. There are no fine strings for them after the program that they must be with Vodacom. But again, we have also digital acceleration, whereby we also try to empower and get young entrepreneurs to reach to their dream at the shortest time possible. But with that, we are also open to keep working with other different stakeholders, the like of Mwananchi Communication, whereby we've just launched the so-called farm clinic for youth. That will have multiple positive impact, because agriculture, we've been singing this song for a while now. It's the main backbone or the critical sector, etc. But we don't see the youth going there. So what we want to do, we want to revolutionize. We want to get agriculture into technology in such a way that people will have more efficiency with good productivity. On health, it's not only about addressing women alone, but we are going across all other areas to ensure that at the end of the day, the impact is really positive. You've mentioned it about Mama. Mama is one of the very, very project that we've done, and it's really coming from a heart because of the impact that of women from the villages. We here in Dar es Salaam, we are lucky. If we check, almost everybody here, they've got a number of doctors. They don't have that luxury in the village. So those so-called golden moments, they are critical, because in Africa, when somebody gets a child, it's a ceremony. So we don't want that joy to turn into sadness. And for what you have seen in Shinyanga, where our pilot was, the results are massive. It's just the use of technology. And we believe that if we continue using technology, partnering with different organizations, last two weeks, we launched another game-changing solution on agriculture, whereby the farmers will be able to get subsidized fertilizer, etc., using our platform, partnering with the banks. So it's collaboration, again, the use of technology to ensure that what we have been promising, that we are here to change people's life through technology, is happening.
Na hapo utamalizia na nunueni SIM card.
Of course. So in the nutshell, we have challenges, but we see that working together with the government, together we'll be able to address those challenges. And there are things that at MNO, the MNO mobile network operators level, we are able to address. So we all know that smartphone penetration is an issue, and you cannot really enjoy digital services if you are still on that kitochi. You have to migrate into a real smartphone so that you can be able to enjoy the offers or the offering that comes with the smartphone. Still, it's a big issue. We had VAT removal, but I don't want to go there. I see.
Just came back.
I see Justina.
Just 2 hours.
Yeah. Okay. So.
Like a comeback. Come a terminator.
Okay. So let me rephrase it in a bit a nicer way. So I think the removal of VAT into for smartphones and Vishkwambis was taken a bit quicker. Maybe we needed the time to evaluate the sector, because we are not yet to see a better growth rate on smartphone penetration in this country. While we are building high-speed broadband network, the usage gap is increasing because people are still using 2G only devices. The growth rate of new users who are coming with new smartphone and new 2G only featured phone is almost equal, and in some areas is higher on 2G only than 3G, which is not supposed to be like that, because the scarce resource, the so-called spectrum, is supposed to really be efficient when you go to the higher generation, the higher Gs. 2G, 3G, 3G is better than 2G, 4G is better than 3G, and 5G is better than 4G when it comes to spectrum efficiency. Now, I don't want to take back to labs to school. It's better utilization. It's like you're having a better and a wider road. You'll be able to cruise and enjoy riding without traffic jams.
So perhaps one of the things, I just want to quickly move to Ms. Trisha, but one of the things that I think we can talk about when we come back is, what are the kind of supports that we need as a collective, because we keep talking about this collective, to make sure that we are building this capacity, right, for people to be able to now get the devices that would allow them to leverage the opportunities that digital provides. Otherwise, without these devices, tutakuwa tunaimba mziki.
Kabisa.
Now, moja kwa moja, moving on to you, Ms. Risha Chanda. So there's having a great plan, the setting up execution strategies and success indicators. That's one thing. On the other, it's actually work on ground and ensuring that you're monitoring the work on ground to ensure proper, timely efficiency. But it is clear that non-governmental organizations have been playing a key role in advocating change, using data to inform advocacy agendas. We can not overstate what NGOs have done for this country and the continent as a whole. But personally, in speaking with several CSOs and in reading a few reports, CSOs and NGOs, many feel that our people are not ready for a digital Tanzania. There is a completely different school of thought in many spaces. Wanasema hatuko tayari, hatutaki. And I was in a forum in Morocco, and somebody said that outright, and she was actually really upset that we were actually having that as a pillar of discussion. So many of the solutions that we require on ground need non-digital interventions, and the current focus on Digital Tanzania is leading to a misdiagnosis of actual problems on ground, hence a misalignment of solutions. That's the feeling, right? So I'd love to hear what your thoughts on this school of thought are, and what are the key measures that we need to take to ensure we're truly not leaving anyone behind as we press accelerate on the Digital Tanzania agenda.
Thank you. Thanks for this question. I liked it actually when I saw it. So I think often we tend to have this, I would say, slightly reductionist view of, the idea of digital transformation. We immediately go to technology and the tools, enabled by technology-enabled tools, essentially. Ways to get things done faster, better, all of that. So I think Wanazaki, my friends in the sector, often, I think we need to think about a number of things in this space. So one, we all see these very exciting. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Oh, okay. So it's like, yeah, that's like what you were told not to do in COVID, right? Anyway, sorry about that. Okay, so we need to, first, we often, we see all these exciting numbers, for example, from TCRA around growth in smartphone penetration, but I think we need to think about more than access to tools, but also the usage of those tools, right? And so I think what my colleagues in the sector are often worried about is this sort of almost, deep desire to run towards, I'm going to build an application, I'm going to do this, when actually maybe just a form would be okay. And so we're kind of, I think we see ourselves as injecting a bit of that caution into this conversation based on the kind of work we do and the perspectives we come through. So when we're thinking about these tools and usage and access, of course, the issue of inclusion is massive. Who has access and who does not? And then amongst those who have access, how are they using these? How can they use these? If we think about a young woman with a visual impairment in Sumbawanga, where maybe even the mobile phone network coverage is not that good, and in her household, what is her chance of even touching the Kitochi phone, that Nguvu was talking about? So I think we need to build those thoughts into what we're doing, right? And we also, I think this is a point that you made in the beginning, Nguvu, is that tools or the technology, it's not going to suddenly level the hierarchies and the power imbalances that we have in our society. It isn't some sort of magic wand that we can wave and say, okay, now suddenly everybody has these great equal opportunities and accesses. So unless we're really careful and really deliberate, I think we'll replicate these same issues that we're seeing offline, online, right? And then, of course, the idea of digital transformation gives rise to a whole new set of challenges that we have to grapple with. Of course, data protection and privacy is a huge one. We've all kind of alluded to it. But even forms of criminality, how crime happens, right, is different. We had somebody from the police cybercrimes department come and talk to us about the cybercrimes law when it was first enacted many years ago now. But, he was saying just the definition of theft. Theft in the offline world is you have something, I take it from you, and I therefore deprive you of it. And that is the definition of theft. Now, obviously, in a digital world, I can take it from you, and you can still have it, and I can have it and share it with 100 other people too, right? So we need to start kind of thinking about these new challenges. And I think my colleagues in the sector are, concerned about those, and I think fairly and rightly so. But so beyond all these kind of cautionary words, which I think are very, very important to keep in mind, there's also, I think, space for optimism when we think about digital transformation in a wider way, right? We're talking about how we reimagine and redesign basically everything that we do. That's the kind of full extent of it, to my mind. And so I think if we build in this type of thinking from the beginning, we think about how to solve our existing problems, the point you made, real problems that are lived by us, but in a way that works for all of us, despite the variation in access to skills, to tools, to enabling mindsets. We need to build that thinking in. I also think there's a huge value, as I said in the beginning, this idea of digital approaches. Just the very idea of we start from a problem that needs to be solved. I have been in the civil society sector for more than 15 years. I can't tell you how many times people will come and say, oh, I want to make a movie, or I want to, deliver bed nets. Well, what problem here are you trying to solve? Have you kind of done your analysis and background work sufficiently? And I think really the kind of digital ecosystem in the digital world has brought that type of thinking, human-centered design or user-driven thinking into the kind of mainstream, and I think that's super important. The same with the idea of iteration, which I mentioned before. Now it is very much the kind of trend or the fashion for NGOs to be thinking, this type of work that's called problem-driven iterative adaptation. Okay, it's a mouthful to say, but what does that mean? You start with the problem that you want to solve, you don't know what the solution is necessarily, you do a lot of work, you look into it, but then you try something and you're not then stuck into a 5-year implementation plan and then you're evaluating at the end to say, okay, now this worked, or actually, sorry, it didn't work, let's start again. So you're really thinking right from the outset, right as you're really even starting something, you're saying, okay, how is this working for people? What type of feedback am I getting? From who? How can I adjust what I'm doing to do it better? So I think that, and then again, this idea of freedom to fail, I think these are just 3 sort of digital approaches or ways of thinking digitally, I would say, that I think are so important to all of us, no matter what space we work in. So I think that's really important. So for me, in terms of the kind of how, which is, of course, a much bigger and harder question, I think overall it's right to be cautious, but I would like to say cautiously optimistic. I think we can sort of be cautious and embrace the opportunities therein. I think keeping the principle of social justice and the principles of social justice and inclusion at the front and center of everything we do is really important. As soon as you're starting to ask yourself these questions, imagine that lady in Sumbawanga as you're doing your work. Keep her in your mind. And then I think already you're at a better starting point. And then the second one for me in terms of how we can help is this idea of partnership, a whole of society approaches. I always really like to say this thing, we're all platforms now, right? Innovations, ideas, information, they don't just come from one source, they come from all of us. And so I think that idea that we need to embrace diversity of ideas from every sector of our society will also to help to address this. And I think that's it. In the end, if we harness this kind of collective power and capacity, we can address the core inclusion issues of digital transformation. Thank you.
Cautiously optimistic. Makofi kwake tafadhali. So I am also cautiously optimistic that time is my friend, but at the same time it's reminding me that I have not created it. So I'm going to come to you, Mr. Baziwe, and then I'm going to allow perhaps 2 questions very fast. Your name, your organization, straight to the question. Let us know who you're addressing it to. And then we're going to answer those questions. And then I'm going to come to you, Dr. Flora, to kind of summarize everything and give us a close. But Mr. Baziwe, moja kwa moja kwako. A major factor contributing to the effective collaboration among stakeholders, nations, etc., a factor that aids in the building of sustainable bilateral and multilateral relationships is trust. Right? The digital space presents a whole new ballgame when it comes to thinking about conversations of access, security, and privacy of data online. Data is the new oil, so they say. This presents a few reflection prompts. What are the measured actions we must take to ensure the security of the data of our people that is now or will be posted to the World Wide Web? The biggest question is now, whose responsibility is it? Let's think about the complexity of this task. We keep talking about our the lady in Sumbawanga, because she's putting her data online as well. Are the people, pardon? Let's give her a name. What's the lady in Sumbawanga's name? Rose Halima. Halima, sasa umeenda kwenye jamaa, I'm trying to be equal kwenye religion, eh? Neema, jamani, because Neema is also putting her data online. So let's think about the complexity of the task, right? Are the people up to speed? Can they manage? Should we wait and build capacity, right? When we're thinking about the ownership of this data, management of this data, and then also thinking about how far do we go in building digital safe spaces for the Neemas of Sumbawanga as we're going online. After namwambia jichunge, anajichunga vipi sasa?
Hatari sana. Okay, interesting question. I'll change it, I'll paraphrase it, I'll change it in a way that I'll give it a different analogy. Tuseme huyu Neema anakimbia marathon. Si kila mtu anakimbia siku hizi marathon. Na nyie si ndo mnaweka nimekimbia 21 kilometers, wengine 10k, mna upload kila siku. So you're always giving your data out to the big guys, GAFAM, Google, Apple, Facebook, Microsoft, Amazon. They know more about you than your mother, grandmother, and everybody. Yeah, mnafanya, and it's voluntary. You're giving your data away. So there's a lot of things that we have to think about when we're looking at protection of mifumo or even data, before you get to data. One, I always like to think of circles. So when we're trying to understand how to protect something, we think of circles. Think of security in 3 circles, in 4 circles. First circle is people. Yeah? How do people use your systems? Second circle is processes. What business processes are these? Are there proper rules in the business process? Ukimwachia mtu benki the right to onboard people kwenye sim banking and you don't have somebody to verify, ata onboard anybody, ata onboard zile dormant account zote. You know? So what processes do you have in place to check? Then you look at the systems themselves. How are they managed? How are they configured? Yeah? And then lastly, the systems hold your data. So how are you protecting the data? Now kwenye data kidogo tuna mambo mengi sana. But what we've seen the trend over the last 5 years is from 2018 European GDPR. So that's the trend everywhere. Now in Zeto, I think Kenya have one, Rwanda has one even stronger than the European Union one. And we are also in the process of doing that. I think government is addressing that. So in terms of data, you've asked me some very interesting questions. Because we can have the Protection Act and everything, but if people are willing to give away their data, ni kitu kingine. That's why we go back to the first thing, educating the people in not only releasing their data just ovyo. Today, it's even more difficult because you might want to hold your data, but your kids don't know this. So I'm now getting into your family now, which is why things like advocacies of safe protection online are very important. Now I've got 11-year-old and 16-year-old boys, and unajua tumezoea sijui PlayStation. These kids don't even like PlayStation. They're doing Fortnite and Roblox. And if you don't know those, pole sana. They are playing with 50 million people at any one go. And through Vodacom, they can buy money, online money called Robux. Mimi nilikuwa sijui. I thought I have to take out my cards. We unaweza kuleta airtime. We nijazie airtime tu. So airtime tu. Yani naweka airtime converter na Robux, 400 Robux, and they continue to play. They buy things. The scary thing is they're there with 50 million other people. You don't know whether they're adults or they are watu wazima saying they're adults, and they share files. That's the scarier thing. They share files and they chat 24/7. They chat. If you didn't yupo, ametoka leo. Your kids will give away all your data just like that. Anafanya kazi wapi? Yule bana sijui yuko Morogoro leo. Wala hata mimi sijui kazi yake. I don't even know. Yeah? So we have a problem. So we can't wait. I don't believe in waiting. We have to act now. We have to find the capacity to build the capacity to respond. We need to have data protection laws. We need to enhance laws to protect our citizens. We need to enhance laws to protect our systems. Government has lots of systems. Lots of systems. Kwani unafikiri nyie tu ndo mnataka system? You think our neighbors don't want to look into the NSSF database? They are knocking on the doors of our files every single day. Yeah? So there are very many people interested in our data, and it's upon us really to step up and protect our data. And that's an area I'm very passionate about enabling from private sector, government sector, watu wa kawaida nyumbani. I'm absolutely passionate, up to the point of paranoia. You know, if you want me to talk about how many ways you can get hacked, give you demos, I can give you demos and tell you. But the most important thing is for us to have the capability to respond, so that even the systems that we build, if they have problems, if they are, and this is regardless of the technology, whether you're going to use AI, blockchain, IoT, or whatever comes next, it doesn't matter. We should be able to understand how systems work, know where the systems have made mistakes, because the cybercrime is just growing at an incredible rate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I mean, that beats a lot of reflection prompts. Most of the times when we're talking about data protection, tunadhani ni ya wao. Wale watu ambao wanajua kusema zile namba online. Sisi we are innovators bwana. Right? So that when you think about it in that way, and you've shared that story about your child, it brings it into how real it is. Right? How real it is. It's not just about the Netflix movie, tunaona government and nini, lakini it's real every single day. So moja kwa moja, may I please just get 2 questions from the floor. I've got one going one. Okay, I've got I've got 2. So I've got 1 and 2. Ilikuwa ni auction, first come, first serve. So your name, organization, straight to the question, 30 seconds. Who are you addressing it to? And then we will answer those questions as quick as possible. Karibu sana. 1 second, 1 second.
Asante. Kwa jina naitwa Rose Funja, and I'm a managing director of Agriinfo, a drone operator. So my question is to Mr. Mrusha, and so I want to run away from the data protection. We know that the next revolution is data. That's the next revolution, and you can only harness it if you put it together. So from innovation point of view, those of us who are collecting data that is in silos, how do we put it together in a way that we don't have to pay a foreign company in the near future to get an insight of what we are easily sharing out? So an example would be satellite data. We know that most of us pay a lot to get that. So the next revolution is actually data, so how do we harness that? Thank you.
All right, the next question. Don't tackle the questions now. We're going to, I'm pivoting a little bit, but please just keep those questions in mind. Let's take that one.
Asante, naitwa Bakari Machum. Nafanya kazi na Mwananchi Communications Limited. I want to follow on the argument of leaving no one behind. Now, Jones, you mentioned the 2 C's. I want to see if I can add 1 C from collaboration, capacitate, and then I want to add conversations. So my question is, how do we join in the other communities into the conversation of what we are discussing today, instead of talking within the ecosystem? Asante.
Issue of inclusion. So those are 2 questions that have been asked. Now I am looking at time, and if you allow me to do a little bit of a transition in our as we close, what we're going to do is I'm going to ask, so both questions were you to Mr. Mrusha. Una umezi note. So tutarudi tu, we will come back to you kama terminator. Nitaomba my panel to give us closing remarks for about a minute, and then we're going to close. Mr. Mrusha, I'm going to come to you. Baadaye, we're going to have a conversation ongoing. Then we're going to move on swiftly to the fireside chat. Perhaps starting from you, Mr. Peter, for your closing remarks.
Well, my closing remarks are, we should make sure whatever products we're building, whatever systems we have, look at digital trust and assurance as well. Thank you.
Okay, for me, I think my closing remarks will be on the way together as stakeholders should really focus on, so that we can take Tanzania to where we aspire, to where we want. So number 1, we should really improve digital literacy. Skills, whether from primary schools to all over, even to adults, because we don't want anyone to be left behind, as you've heard from my brother Bakari. Number 2, we need localization. So the innovators really they should look at local content, so that mama yangu anayeuza vitumbua, those local traders, they should feel that they are part of the solution and the use case is making sense for them to adopt. Otherwise, we'll have better solution, but no one is using. Number 3, we need this to be also on the government side. So yes, I'm happy now. A lot of things have been digitized. I can pay almost everything from government point of view from where I am. Convenient, quicker, at any time tea. I don't need to wait. So it's like the office is open 24/7. So seamless. So we need to get everything. We don't need to go to the government offices to pay some taxes, etc. Number 4. This is difficult, but we need to look at it in terms of taxes. We should really encourage digitalization, and we shouldn't be a showstopper to stop the growth of the sector, whether it's on devices or ecosystem infrastructure, etc. And then the last 4, quickly, is on safety, which is similar to what my brother Peter said about cybersecurity, but also something that my sister Honorable Neema has been advocating for a while, the online abuse sector. Because if there's no safety, people, they will run away, and then we won't have usage on that one. So to create an online, a safe place on online is critical. And of course, we've seen most of the use cases from innovators is on financial services. They should also look after that one. Innovation is not only on fintech. Okay, thank you.
Bando imeisha.
Sorry, thank you. I hope hutanikatisha hivyo. Okay, so just 2 things really quickly. I really wanted to echo the kind of call in a sense more than a question that came from Bakari. You know, I have this sense, this is my second forum to attend. I came last time as a participant and this time as a panelist. Thank you to all of you for organizing. But I think let's try and, you know, I think there's a sense, at least from those of us who would consider ourselves a little bit outside of this ecosystem, there is a little bit of a sense of, oh, you know, we're in or we're out, a type of vibe, I could say, that's happening. You know, we're not scared of you, we're not averse to digital transformation, but I think including us in these conversations and recognizing that we do also have something to contribute, even as much as we come from these old school offline worlds, is, I think, really important. And likewise on our side, I think we need to recognize how important this ecosystem is to us for everything that we do. And here I speak very much as a sort of civil society person. And my last thought is to, you know, to kind of go back to where I began, which is this idea of freedom. You know, why is it that kind of the major sort of innovations and the companies that we think of as innovative are housed in one country, in the US, you know? And I reflect on this often because I don't think they have a monopoly on innovation at all, you know? But I think it's this idea that's really embedded in that, in the US at least, from, you know, the time a child is tiny, is that I can do what I want and I can be anything and make anything happen. And how do we, and I see sometimes in our systems here, you know, whether it's from family life and education, we're not creating actually that mindset amongst our young people, that I really can be anyone and I can do anything, and something isn't going to come and kind of land down on me like a ton of bricks to stop me. Actually, what's happening around me is enabling and supportive of this idea that I have, because when we're young, we believe we can change the world, and I think that's true. So how do we kind of keep that going as we go on? Thank you.
Shukran. So 2021, 2022, I don't know if you can hear me, about 6 billion came to be invested in one of the fast growing industry in Africa. And it wasn't mining, it wasn't agri, it was the digital economy. 6 billion. No, US dollars, that is. That number is very important for all of us in the room. Very important for all of us in the room. As we speak now, we're probably at a loss as far as what we import vis-a-vis what do we export. And with the digital economy, for once, we do have that opportunity to bring that balance to 50-50, or at least 60-40. The question I have is, what are we doing about it? Are we just sitting and having conversation about it, or building on top? The title of this forum was very provoking, because the moment I said, "Oh, Digital Tanzania," it took me to the World Bank. You all know about that huge program. You know, I think the microphone. Somebody else has a number. Yes. Thank you. $150 million, according to Nguvu. Right? But are we really harnessing? Are we really going in there, looking at what they've programmed it to do and say, we think we as Tanzania could do more? We've been talking with some of you in the room about what's going to happen in Zanzibar by the end of this month. Hopefully it will be launched the way we expect for it to be launched. Zanzibar, label it whatever you want to call it. We are a big fan of the word silicon. Call it Silicon Zanzibar. But the blue economy and the digital part of the uchumi wa blue is talking about 10 years, corporate tax free for any startup and investors that want to set up residence in Zanzibar. If that is approved and launched by end of this month, it's going to be a game changer. We on the mainland on the other side, are we talking the talk or doing the walk? We have the access, let's act on it.
Or are we moving to Zanzibar? Dr. Flora, karibu.
Oh, sure.
I gave it to you and it didn't work. Okay. So thank you. I just want to take off from where he left, and that's really what is our roadmap. And when I speak about the roadmap, I really want to reflect on what Jones mentioned earlier, where they started, how we got into the ICT space, and what we've been able to do to actually transform Tanzania. I think sometimes we lose sight of how far we've come, and we keep just complaining and moaning and groaning. But for those of us who are my age, at least can claim where we came from with our, what was it, Mshindi, that phone, to where we are now, and we were saying, oh, everybody has to have a smartphone. At the time, it was priceless to just have that Mshindi thing. You were somebody in society if you had one. So let's acknowledge that. And the time it has taken Tanzania to actually move from that time to where we are now, because I'm still alive and I can use a smartphone. So I think we have really made leaps and bounds, and we need to look at that. But in that spirit, I think it's very important for us to look forward and look back at the same time, because that's the only way we will be able to really action this concept that we say leaving no one behind, because not all technologies is going, not all the digital opportunities are going to be relevant for our problems. You know, we always talk about African problems, African solutions, but not all the African solutions need ICT. We have a lot of problems that can be readily solved and transform the livelihoods of our people without ICT. And so, and I think Risha was mentioning, talking about that. So if we look forward and say, what are the trends in ICT and where can ICT take us, that we can look back and also say, okay, without ICT, we can actually do this and make things inclusive. And in that same spirit, in a similar spirit, I would also say we don't have to be the same, because the minute we all become, you know, dressed in safari suits, which is what I want to say, is then we stop innovating, we stop creating. But as long as we're different, I would like to dress up the way you are, but not quite that way. I want to do something slightly different. So let's think about that as we try and develop. And I think there's work already going on, and we're getting funding from UNESCO and CEDA, which is all great. And I'll say this with a little bit of humility, because I have been working with development in the development finance space. But sometimes I look around and say, why do they come and help us when we have a lot of resources of our own? I mean, I look around this room right now, and the minds that we have here, it's mind-boggling. Why aren't we doing this for ourselves? Why do we need other people to come and plan for us and tell us about this big World Bank program that we have? And whilst it's useful to get support, but we need to rally behind that and say, okay, you're supporting us, but this is where we want to go. Because if you look at the landscape of support that's going around the world right now, it's not, we used to call it development aid. I think now it's just aid for trade. So are we sitting in that space where we're saying it's finance, it's digital, but we want this as Tanzania. So you want to come to the table, talk to us, we're going to put this, and you put that, it's business. And we have to think about that. So I think in doing so, what we need to do is also build resilience in our ecosystems. And that's probably going to answer your social protection question. How do were able to take care of their people, and we weren't. So that, and the last thing I just want to, it's not a comment, it's just a comment on what the gentleman from Voda said with regards supporting women. I think the biggest problem we have now is not really putting women through the pipeline. The biggest problem is seeing women stay in STEM. How many women do you see in positions of CEO, leading teams? Staying in STEM is the biggest problem. The pipeline for STEM, I think even the University of Dar es Salaam, they had programs and they've scrapped them because they have more women in universities and postgraduate programs, but women in positions, leading COSTECH, leading the commissions of ICT, leading not as many as we have Neema. I think Neema, you're alone, Apai? Oh yeah, but then that you're an outlier. We need to see this consistently, and I'm not saying they have to be all women, but that percentage of women in management is really important.
Thank you very much. A hand of applause to this incredible panel. Asanteni sana. May I play jamani, pigeni makofi mpaka nimewapa maji, ilikuwa ni mambo mengi. Asanteni sana. May I please ask you to get up on your feet. Naombeni just a quick photo for with all the panelists. Just a photo. Oh, your questions, they're going to be answered. They're going to be answered. Do not worry. Let's just stand together and have a quick photo together. I'm just going to quickly go through what we've spoken about. We've talked about digital trust and assurance in terms of the final words, importance in improving digital literacy, skills, important to localize innovations, always think about context. Taxes should not stop sectors' growth. We have to think about how to build digital safe spaces a lot more. We have to think about how we can remove the cliques, include researchers, academicians in the conversation. We have been challenged to think about freedoms. Karibuni to take your seats. How do we use digital space to level the playing field when we think about import-exports? Silicon Zanzibar, who is coming with me to Zanzibar? We've been told to celebrate our past and all we've done as we anticipate and commit to action as we look to the future. Also prompted to think about building resilience a lot differently. And then there's the aspect of business. How can we think about the support that's coming in, not just as aid and grants, but how do we now create value, think about the business aspect of it, and how do we truly build sustainable enterprises on ground. And with that, I'm going to take this moment and thank you for your participation. I do understand that we are way into the evening, and I do apologize because yes, we did start off a little bit later than planned, but without further ado, I'd like to call to usher us into our fireside chat this evening. Our fireside chat will be led by none other than Mr. Joseph Manirakiza, who is the program manager for UNDP's Funguo Program. Mr. Joseph Manirakiza, as he has been called quite a bit, has been a champion for this ecosystem for the longest time. Mr. Manirakiza, a hand of applause to you. Makofi kwake tafadhali. Kiukweli sishuki kama ndo makofi yanayokuleta hapa. Asanteni sana. Karibu sana Mr. Manirakiza.
Yes. Asante sana Kels, asante sana for the job well done. Kabla sijawaita panelist wangu, I wanted to allow Mrusha to answer to those two questions that were direct to him. Just 2 minutes, right?
No, 1 minute.
Okay, fine.
No, thanks, Joe. It's important. That's why we're here, I guess. If you don't answer question, then we should have stayed at home. On data, Rose, we can have conversation, and since most of people here are already online, maybe we can continue with that conversation online. But forget the data that you're mentioning, how do we get it from the Googles and, you know, high resolution satellite image. The data that we should be pushing the likes on Nguvu for is the metadata, the data of data. We are sitting on a gold mine. There's a lot of data that is very precise that we could bundle it up with the visuals, like, you know, what you get from Google, free data, and you will get more information than paying $1,000 for the license of companies we don't want to mention for. And Nguvu has that. Nguvu has all the data in Tanzania. He has towers almost anywhere you want to go. And on the right approach, he can give it to you. Same thing with ride-hailing companies. They have data on mobility of our cities more than a city planner with 1,000 researchers can do. And they can provide this data. Can that be part of the license when they come in? You are setting up a riding service in this city, fine, pay the taxes. On top of it, give my mobility data to me. And we've suggested this. The writings are in the letter, we've submitted them. On the conversation, Kaka Bakari, conversation is very expensive. I don't know what the budget for us to be here. It is very expensive to have conversations, but technology helps. How do we leverage existing technologies to have conversation beyond the echo chambers? We're preaching to the choir here. All of us that are here, we probably have had this kind of conversation 10 years ago, and we're repeating the same conversation again. We're preaching to the choir, tushaokoka. Sisi si wa kuambiana hawa. Inabidi tusikie wale ambao wako nje. So let's find ways where we can include, and we can use the provokers that you give us every morning with MCL in the news and other news outlets to say, this is the problem here. Can we find solution? How do we structure conversation with just the cost of data that Nguvu is going to zero rate in the next 2 hours? Asanteni sana.
Asante sana. Wonderful.
Asante sana,
wonderful,
Jones.
wonderful.
Now allow me to welcome my powerful panel just for a fireside chat. I'm going to make it very casual. It's not going to be like another formal panel discussion. I think we are happy to have very powerful people in here who are going to answer to some of the questions that have been raised, and they're also going to tell us what they're going to do to make to realize the digital Tanzania that we need to see. So with me, I'm going to welcome Dr. Nkundwe Mwasaga. He's the Director General of the ICT Commission. It's basically the commission which is supposed to take us to the digital era that we need to have. So I'm not going to speak on behalf. He's going to have to speak to himself. Karibu, Doctor. Yeah, anyway. And then I have two powerful ladies that are going to be with me today. I have Miss Justina Mashiba. She's the CEO of UCSAF. She's going to tell us what UCSAF is and what it does. And I also have Honorable Nema Rugangira. So now you have her to ask all the questions that you normally throw at her on Twitter. So she's here with us. So karibuni sana. Yeah. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to keep it casual, and I don't know how to ask political questions, unfortunately. So you will have to forgive me. And since I have very powerful people who can actually take the whole day talking, I will give myself liberty to intervene, to stop you when I feel like maybe we need to think about people who are hungry. So I will have to start with you, Doctor. ICT Commission, I think you have only 2 months, 3 months in there? 4 months, okay, great. So we can ask you questions, definitely. So when we look at ICT Commission, we believe, okay, the digital Tanzania that we need, you are actually the one who's supposed to take us there. Are you well positioned to actually do that? So Karibu-san, you can tell us about what the ICT Commission does, what you are doing already, what actual opportunities are out there, and then, of course, you can also introduce yourself. Some people don't know that you are one of the few supercomputer experts in Africa, so you can probably tell them that. I don't know if you can hear him.
Very kind of you. Your introduction is wonderful. My name is Nkundwe Moses Mwasaga. I'm Director General of ICT Commission. Like the way you have asked me, ICT Commission started in 2015 and is vested with basically two functions. One is to coordinate the implementation of ICT policy, and another one is to promote ICT. Now, I will dwell more on promotion of ICT because in a promotion, we are looking at it in 4 dimensions. One, we promote professionals, we promote startups, we promote regions in Tanzania so that they can compete in the digital economy of Tanzania, and we promote our country so that it can be competitive in the global digital economy. Just basically that's what we do in that area. Now, when it comes to Digital Tanzania, we are just premier in that because we basically interlink with all institutions in Tanzania. And if someone is asked what's a digital economy in the simplest way, basically it's a way of life on how activities of other people will be done through the platforms. And the difference between how things used to be done before and the way they're supposed to be done now is we are supposed to transform the life of our people in terms of the activity they are doing, basically in 5 dimensions or 5 pillars. One is to ensure that all Tanzania, they have a basic foundational skills in digital matters. 2, we build their trust by making sure that digital platform space is secure. 3 is to ensure that telecommunication services are provided without discrimination. That is, all the people that are supposed to have it. 4 is to ensure that digital economy of Tanzania is inclusive. That's why government is implementing this project that you have mentioned here, where they're working on a last mile connectivity so that everyone will be participating in the digital economy of our country. And the last one is to ensure that digital innovation and the research, like the way my colleague, Dr. Nungu, was trying to raise at that time. Because when you develop new knowledge, you'll ensure that innovation can be improved, and then all this infrastructure in the ecosystem can work together. You can have the incubation, the acceleration, people that can get capitalization, they can scale their business. But all these things, they cannot be done if research is not done. Because new innovation comes when things start from the research, and out of research you get new knowledge is getting innovated, and then you pass through the incubation, acceleration, and things are going like that. So we, in the promotion side, that's what we are supposed to do. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Doctor. I think we are going to question whether we're actually walking the talk as you explained. And you also talked about the inclusive connectivity, and we are lucky to have Yuksaf here. I think she's going to explain to us how they are taking connectivity to the remote areas where the likes of Nguvu wouldn't want to go because it's not commercial. So, Justina, karibu.
Asante sana. Good evening, everyone. So my name is Justina Mashiba. I'm the Chief Executive of the Universal Communication Service Access Fund. This is a government agency, and we have been mandated to extend communication services in villages. We all know, like, majority of population here in Tanzania living in villages. Sometimes, you can just confuse when you see a lot of people in Dar es Salaam. You can think maybe a lot of people are staying in, big cities like Mwanza, Dodoma, and the like. But from statistics point of view, 80% of the population are living in villages. So way back in 2006, the government of the United Republic of Tanzania decided to establish an organization that will be completely mandated to roll out communication services in villages. So the role of UCSAF is to bridge the digital gap between the urban population and the rural population. So what we normally do, if you want to go to digital economy, we should really have an infrastructure. There's no way you can have a digital inclusion. You can include people from the villages without having an infrastructure. So what the government, what the UCSAF normally do is to subsidize the Nguvus, the Vodacom, Tigo, Halotel, and the like, to roll out infrastructure in the villages. And then at the end, we can include the population in the villages in the digital economy. You cannot just say we want a digital economy while you don't have infrastructures in the villages. So we are doing a very crucial role in making sure that the people in the villages are also, connected, so that at the end we get the digital inclusion. For that one, I think maybe we should really congratulate the government. Can you? Thank you. When I was got the employment in this organization, I was like, why did the government decide to have this thing? But now, as I'm talking right now, before the UCSAF, the population coverage was 45%. But right now, when we're talking, with the intervention of the UCSAF, we are now around the population coverage of 94%. So you can see the thing that the government has done in collaboration with the private sector. The kina nguvus wametusaidia sana katika kuhakikisha tunapeleka huduma za mawasiliano vijijini. And the way we do these things, we really collaborate, because the first panel discussed about the collaboration. We are really thankful to the telephone operators, the mobile operators, the way they really assist the government in making sure that the population in the village are getting communication services. So with that, I know if we continue collaborating each other, we will, go further, and the digital inclusion won't leave the people living in the villages. So maybe, I can talk and talk and talk. Thank you.
I know that. I know you're a lawyer, so yeah. Thanks a lot, Justina. You've talked about what UCSAF is actually there to do. I think sometimes we kind of ignore these kind of institutions when they actually do a crucial job. Hopefully we can dream of a time where the whole of Tanzania is actually covered. So somebody said that access is not just enough. I mean, we also have to move to the use. I think you are going to tell us more about how do we make sure that this access is actually useful. Now, Nema, you are very vocal about internet governance, security online, but you also being a member of parliament, I think you are the one who holds accountable these agencies to make sure that they do work. You can tell us more about your new role as the chair of the Pan-African Parliamentary Law, what actually it means for Tanzania, but also give us your perspective about how do we move forward as a digital Tanzania that we need. Karibu.
Nashukuru, as introduced, my name is Nema Lugangira. I'm a member of parliament in Tanzania. And very recently, it was 19th July, we launched the African Parliamentary Network on Internet Governance. The inaugural members were 30 MPs from 20 countries. And at the moment we have 45 MPs from 35 countries. And I got challenged to be the chairperson of the network. And thank you. And the deputy chair is a member of parliament from Gambia, and the secretary is a member of parliament from Ghana. And for the gender balance perspective, the chairperson role went to a female, and the two other roles went to a male. So the power is in the hands of the female. So my personal perspective is that, obviously, as a chairperson, first and foremost, I would like to ensure that my country, Tanzania, benefits somehow from my role during my tenure. And already one of the things that I've managed to do is usually UNECA, United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, usually have African Girls Coding Week. It's like a camp for a week that they do in different countries, and they've never done it in Tanzania. So through my role, I've been able to advocate and lobby for this to happen, and it will happen the end of August in partnership with ICT Commission. So already Tanzania is benefiting. In terms of what we foresee as African parliamentarians, I think it's obvious that the tech sector has developed on its own in exclusion of us parliamentarians. So there has been a risk that the sector has tremendously developed, but as parliamentarians, we're not at the pace of understanding the different things in the tech sector, and as a result, we are the ones who have the mandate to create the legislative and regulatory framework, whilst we don't have the correct understanding, or rather are not well placed and well conversant in these different areas. So one of the things that we have outlined as our first priority as the African Parliamentary Network on Internet Governance is to ensure that as African parliamentarians, we get capacity building in the different areas such that we're then able to advise our respective governments through our respective parliaments, but also make sure that we have consensus in what we're trying to push in our different countries. A quick example is under the AU, because the network is hosted under the African Union. So a quick example is the African Union has a digital transformation strategy. It even has a data governance framework. And these are things that are agreed by heads of governments at the AU level, but don't necessarily trickle down to parliament level. So there we are as parliamentarians in our respective countries, not having enough, understanding and clarity on these things that have been passed at continental level, yet we are expected to be the ones to create the laws and the necessary regulation, whilst at the same time, meetings such as this, very rarely would you find, people to stop and think we need parliamentarians in the room. It usually ends at government participation. And it is usually assumed that if you engage government, you have engaged everyone, forgetting that parliament is a different arm on its own and needs to be engaged as an entity. By engaging government does not guarantee that you have engaged parliament. So that's one thing that I can quickly say on that front. Regarding the second part that you mentioned, when we're talking about, I also join everybody else here to commend the great work ICT Commission is doing, UCSAF is doing. But when we're talking about connectivity, it's very important to also look beyond what we're currently doing. So for example, there's something known as community networks. I'll touch on very quickly. If we want to connect the unconnected or the last mile, like I've heard a few people say, we need to recognize community networks. And I'm very pleased that at the ITU meeting in Kigali, which happened, earlier this year, where my sister here was present, our minister for ICT sector was present, and the PS was present. The ITU made a resolution recognizing community networks as one of the tools of accelerating access to this last mile. But at the moment, as far as our laws are here in Tanzania, community networks are recognized as commercial, which then creates a challenge. If I want to set up a community network in Bukoba, and I want to use a UCSAF tower, this is a UCSAF supported tower, I will be charged the same as a commercial person is being charged. And these are the things that I'm trying to push, and I raised it in Parliament during the budget session, and I'm grateful to Honorable Nape Nnauye. He said he's going to work on it. But my kind of frustration is when we as parliamentarians raise such important issues in Parliament, they are not elevated by the sector. So then it makes me wondering, what are we trying to do? Because I would imagine and I would expect when such an issue gets raised in Parliament and the minister commits to working on it, then the sector should pick it up, elevate it, amplify it, such that it pushes the government to accelerate in implementing whatever they promise in Parliament. Thank you.
Asante sana. You have touched on UCSAF. I think we are going to get a chance to respond exactly, because that's just one example kind of shows how somehow disconnected we are in terms of implementation, also in terms of policy, regulation, stuff like that, which I'm going to touch on a little bit. So maybe Justina, if I can give you a chance to kind of respond to just on that one question that Neema has just raised.
Asante Mheshimiwa Neema. Kwanza tuna we really appreciate and recognize the work that you're doing, and on the issue of community network, I've supported one. To start with, the Condor one, I've supported them with, I think I gave them, it was 20 computers so that they can, start doing what they are doing using the community network. In terms of maybe using UCSAF subsidized infrastructure, we haven't really received a request from the community network wanted to use UCSAF site. But we are very open as a government. We can just sit down and discuss and see a way forward of how the community network can be also incorporated. I'm aware and I'm very sure that the ministry is really working on the issue, because it's one of the issues that has been raised, and nadhani katibu mkuu wetu yuko hapa, na ni issue ambayo inafanyiwa kazi. Now, when you're talking of digital economy, the fund that we got from the World Bank, some of it is going to be used in doing a research on a community network. Kwa hiyo sio kwamba ni kitu ambacho kimeachwa, ni kitu ambacho tunakifanyia study na tunajua kabisa ni jambo ambalo mwisho wa siku litakuja kutusaidia. So it's not that we have ignored it. We are really working on it, and you know, as a government we should really, you know, try to see things going on smoothly. So Mheshimiwa, uwe na amani, we are working on it, and our PS is here, maybe you'll get time to respond on it. Lakini sio kwamba ignore, we are doing it, and even the government ime set aside funds kwa ajili ya kuhakikisha kwamba hicho kitu kinaweza kufanywa research vizuri, and at the end of the day to be useful to the citizen of Tanzania. Thank you.
Asante sana. I like how we are turning this platform into like a government Q&A question. That's great. I like it. Anyway, let's move to Dr. Nkundwe. You explained exactly in details what ICT Committee is supposed to be doing, like coordinating the implementation of the ICT policy, which probably you could touch on to see actually where we are in updating it. When you read it on paper, when you listen to you who is in charge of it talking about it, it sounds really great, right? But somebody will look at, like, okay, but why are we not moving that fast? What's not happening? Do you think we really are positioned to actually implement exactly what is on paper?
Well, it is great, actually. It's not
Yes,
that
on
it
paper,
looks
yes.
great. It is great. Yeah. It is great because in different, I can express it in different levels. If you look at the mobile communication market, there are some new companies that just want to come to the market of Tanzania that show that the market can absorb new entrants and is ripe for all the innovation. That's one. Two, if you look at the size of the market of Tanzania and you compare to other countries in Africa, we are doing good. When it comes to financial inclusion, we are one of the countries that is doing very fine globally, not only in Africa, but globally. When it comes to the price of the communication, it is very affordable compared to other countries. If you look at how people are absorbing innovation that has to do with payment, people are engaged in that very much. When it comes to e-commerce, there is a very big potential in that. And all of this has been successful because of the bigger investment which was done in the year of around 2000 and 2010, where the bigger backbone was set there, and the regulation of mobile communication industry was done very fairly. They were not able to create a monopoly like some other countries that they have monopoly in their market. We don't have that. So basically we are doing good, and I'm sure that the country will take off, and we can be one of the countries that they have a bigger digital economy, probably in Africa.
Yes, we can. Maybe I will just follow on this. The potential is great. I totally agree. But to be honest, I think we should be moving at a faster speed. I will just take an example of what we just mentioned about the investment, heavy investment that went into the backbone, ICT backbone. And given our position that we are actually along the seashore, that, I mean, geographically. A city like Dar es Salaam should be like 100% fully covered with faster and stable internet connectivity, to be honest.
Right.
Why are we not there yet, with all the heavy investment that has gone into it?
Well, there's some statistics that I'll give it to you that they add a little of complexity when you talk about Dar es Salaam. Of course, the census that comes will give us the correct figure of demographic number that we have, but 10% of our population look in Dar es Salaam, so it's 6 million. To just give a comparative example is perhaps almost 2 times of the population of Botswana is in Dar es Salaam, right? There are some challenges that we have. There are some, having that bigger population in a very small area like this, there's some complexity inside of it, right? Like when it comes to coverage of mobile communication, the whole city is covered, right? And the city is contributing a lot in the GDP of the country. Based on the data that I have, is 17% of the GDP of Tanzania is coming from Dar es Salaam. So it shows that, you know, the connectivity is doing a lot. If you calculate our GDP from the data that I have access is 65 billion US dollars. So when you calculate, it comes to 10.66 billion, equivalent to the GDP of Rwanda. So if Dar es Salaam alone was a country, was bigger than some other countries. That's an achievement. Of course, I know there is some of the challenges when it comes to urban planning, because you know when you want to solve the issue of ICT, it involves a lot of things, right? There's an issue of urban planning, but when we'll start to use, for example, 4G towers everywhere in Dar es Salaam, I believe we are going to see a lot of success. The fiber to home, there are some challenges which are there, but that's the right direction to go.
Maybe I can cite one, which probably you didn't want, since you are in government, you want to cite one other government agency. I'm told that for, let's say, any player to pass a fiber cable along a certain road or wherever, they are charged like, is it $1,000 per kilometer or something like that?
Yes.
By another government agency, Tarura. So that's why our data tend to be very expensive. Or maybe we don't have data like in Kigamboni, we cannot have cable in the next 10 years. Or how does that work when we are within the same government, but we are kind of against each other?
You know, it's a complex thing to me, but I think since our economy has been connected, the policy of today, they're supposed to be coordinated policies where we're supposed to sit together and we design things together. To say the truth, because we expect to connect 80% of population by 2025 into internet. That price, I don't think if it can help to reach that number. I don't think. I'm ready to be educated on that, but I think, because I mean, when you charge such amount of money, business people, they'll pass it to the last person who uses that service, yes. Mm-hmm. So I don't think fiber to home with such a kind of tariff is going to work.
Thank you.
We need to work together so that we can get an optimal price that will enable more houses to have fiber, just like in other countries.
Thank you. I think I'll give that challenge to NEMA, maybe to raise it in Parliament, that at least the government agencies need to be coordinated, work together so they can actually be able to be connected as a profit. Asante. Yes?
I just wanted to say something there. I'm not going to mention names, but I wanted to get a better understanding of that $1,000 rate, and I approached a few people who are the ones who get charged. They never provided me with the capacity building that I needed. So there you go. For me to raise something, I need to be well capacitated to understand the issue, to raise it and own it. So I challenge it back to them. If they want us to raise it, they need to, you know, talk to us in black and white and explain to us to understand the crust of the issue, the nuts and bolts, so that when we raise it, we can be authentic about it.
Thank you. John, John's a challenge to you to educate Ms. Nema to take our
Not just me, parliamentarians.
Yes, you are representing them here. Thank you. All right. Justina,
yeah, can I maybe add? I do remember when Samia Suluhu Hassan entered into power, one of the issues that she raised was on the coordination and collaboration between the government agencies. She mentioned it very clear. And it is, I think, the right time now we should really coordinate it ourselves. Like what I'm doing right now, we had a meeting with REA. REA, they're the one who are doing rectification in the electrification in the villages, and we are constructing towers. There was a time that Nguvu has to use a lot of diesel and solars, while, you know, REA maybe sometimes even past the tower. So we had a very good meeting with the REA, trying to see how are we going to, you know, when I want to maybe construct some towers somewhere, I should share with them my plan, and they share with me their plan, and we can see how we can go, you know, easily and more coordinated, because there's a time I go there, there's no electricity, natakiwa nitengeneze magenerator na nini, even the cost inakuwa kubwa sana. Lakini if we collaborate, we work together, this is my plan and this is Rhea's plan, it will be very easy na hata ile cost itapungua. Kwa hiyo nadhani tumeanza vizuri na even the ministries now wanaongea, nadhani hata mnajua issue ya fiber. Sasa hivi fiber, the ministry wanashirikiana na TANESCO, zile nguzo za TANESCO ambazo wamepitisha their high voltage, even the ministry can as well pitisha fiber kwenye ile. Kwa hiyo it is now more coordinated and I think we see light there, things will be cheaper. Even the bundles, I guess, with that one, the collaboration, the bundles are going to be lowered. You know, mkishirikiana vitu vitaweza kwenda kwa kirahisi zaidi. Asante.
Asante sana. I'll ask the last question to Dr. Nkundu, so that I can allow Kels to be able to welcome questions from the floor, because I think that's why we have these people, so you can be able to answer questions. One is about, I mean, you are tasked of kind of supporting or promoting investment in ICT. And this basically touches on so many sectors. I will give an example of something that actually got me like question whether we know what we're trying to do within this country. Like right now, urban mobility is actually key.
Right.
That touches on whether you want to welcome tourists, whether you want to move from one place to the other place, whether you want to minimize on environmental footprints so that you don't have to drive, that you can actually use these digital kind of services that have been invested. Now we have like two big names in Tanzania that are leaving the market just because one regulator feels like, well, they are not abiding by what they want.
Right.
I don't know, you as someone who's supposed to be pushing for investment in ICT, what would you say about that?
Well, it's just a similar question, just like the one that we talk about Arura, right? From the way that we are living now, things are very connected, to say the truth. And the way we have been connected, it demands collaborative regulating. That is, when you institute a regulation, it is very difficult that if one institution, they can just sit in their boardroom and design something without thinking about other people. Surely, when a global company leaves the certain market, it is not good, because it makes the work of investing, attract investment from other global companies very difficult, because they normally talk to each other. Of course, now, if you listen to that conversation, you'll find that the organization that is regulating that market has some points, and the investor also, they have some points. So the best thing was supposed to involve all the other people, the stakeholders, and ensure that we found a middle ground so that they cannot leave. Because the companies like that, I mean, they're global companies. Once they leave, it can affect tourism, because you know, there are some tourists, they like to use solutions which they know, right? And those two companies, they are global companies. So I think collaborative regulation measures are very, very important, so that you involve all the people that are there. Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when it comes to entrepreneurship in ICT, it's an opportunity for our startups, right? To enter to the market and to capture that market. But we normally say, when you build a market, you have to make sure that there's a good mix. There are startups from your country, and also we have global companies. Yeah.
Asante sana. Kels, I don't know if there are questions on the floor that could actually ask the big people that we have here. Karibuni. There's one already that I'm seeing there.
There's one question here. Can I see another hand? Another hand with any other question? Going once, going twice. We've got a question here.
Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Naza Nicholas Kirama, and I am currently the president of Internet Society Tanzania chapter. and I'm very glad to be here. I would like to really make a contribution for what is happening this evening. Number one, I would like to commend the government of Tanzania for actually owning the ICT. For example, the control number was a game changer. And I feel that with that speed, they can be a game changer in the area of community networks. And as I stand here, I am a real example of what community network can do, because we have been able to implement one in Kigamboni. It is called the Kigamboni Community Network Innovation Hub. So what we have done, basically, we didn't do any sort of using spectrum. What we have done is actually we have made it like a circus. We have bought a huge chunk from TTCL, the fiber bundle, for like 500,000 and so on. And then what we have done is slice it in terms of the number of our subscribers from the area. So that way we get unlimited data bundle per month, but the subscriber will pay, for example, in my home I'm paying like something like 5,000 per month. So you get unlimited data, you can download whatever you want. So I believe that with the proper police guidance, we can be able to actually roll out community networks, around the country. So that was my contribution, that community networks can work in Tanzania if we have a proper police guidance in terms of what it can be able to achieve. So if you come to Kigamboni, you will see a community network innovation hub up and running. Thank you.
Thank you. Perhaps just one last question. That was a great comment. I think you've all done an incredible job. Hamna maswali. Can I have it?
Then I will allow my panelists just to kind of give closing remarks, a brief closing remarks, so we can now leave the floor. Karibu sana, starting with Neema from the...
Thank you very much. One thing that I would like to say is that we have a very unique opportunity in the sense that Her Excellency President Samia Suluhu Hassan has proven to be an ICT digital champion, because at many occasions, even most recently when she was swearing in the new leadership at the police, the Tanzania police new leadership, she insisted on the use of ICT and digital solutions. So on many occasions she's doing so. So I believe that we have a unique opportunity to take advantage of that commitment from her, so that to realize the Digital Tanzania ambition. The second concluding thing is that obviously we all know that 23rd August is Sensa, and it is a holiday, thanks to Her Excellency President Samia Suluhu Hassan. So you have no excuses, especially the gents, no excuses. Make sure that you are home and you get counted. Yes, especially the gents. And one thing that I just want to share, I got the opportunity by NBS to kind of follow up on the implementation of how NBS was training wanaitwa makarani wa Sensa in Kagera. And they have about 9,000 plus or minus total wakarani who are going to be doing the Sensa. And in the rounds that I did, and I went into the different lessons that they were having, about probably, if I'm to be modest, maybe 80% of them had never ever touched a tablet. Literally, it is through the sensor training that they first were able to touch a tablet. They were hearing about, some of them were even telling me that they were going into the interview, They heard about Vishkwambi, but they didn't know what Vishkwambi is. Hadn't touched the tablet. To us, we take it for granted. So through this sensor process, NBS has actually been able to roll out digital skills and literacy. And this is something that goes to show that the digital gap, going back to what Madam Justina said, rural connectivity, urban connectivity, digital literacy, it's enormous. So whatever that we're trying to do here in the urban places, we need to make extra effort to ensure that we connect peripheral regions. That is just a live example from the region that I come from. It was mind-blowing that, you know, through Sensor they've been able to get this understanding and this training. So I guess it's a challenge for all of us to make sure that we do indeed do what it takes to reach that last mile. Thank you.
Justina, go ahead.
Asante. Mimi, my remarks regarding today's session is Tanzania kidigitali inawezekana na hakuna ambaye ataachwa nyuma, hata yule aliyoko vijijini. Nawashukuru sana.
Asante sana. Go ahead, Doctor.
Yeah, mine is like the way Justina said, Digital Tanzania is possible. Those 5 pillars are most important thing to focus on: digital skills, digital security, digital economy, digital telecommunication services, and digital research and innovation. Once that thing is covered, everything will be all right.
And that will be it for me. Asanteni sana for paying attention. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Nashukuru sana. Kalila.
Thank you very much, Joseph Manarakiza, Mr. Manarakiza, and your incredible panel. I think watu tutakuwa kidogo. Hello? Yes, I think we are consuming a lot of information. Pigeni picha jamani. Jamani, msiondoke. Unajua hiyo ndo kuna gap kwenye photos. Meambiwa especially wanaume, hakikisheni mpo nyumbani tarehe 23. Najiuliza kwa nini 22 mpaka 23. Tarehe 22 kuamkia 23. Muhimu kuwa nyumbani. 22 kuamkia 23. Asante sana. Okay, all right. Thank you, everybody. Another round of applause, tafadhali, for this incredible panel. We're going to move swiftly into a keynote speech from our guest of honor. And without further ado, I'd love to ask you to give a round of applause to Dr. Jim Yonazi, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Information, Communications, and IT. Karibu sana.
Honorable Neema Lugangira, the MP in the Parliament of Tanzania, Mr. Munaku Mulembwa, the Director of ICT, Dr. Nungu, Director General of Tanzania Commission for Science and Technology, Dr. Nkundu Mwasaga, Director General of ICT Commission, Madam Justina Mashiba, the CEO of UXAF, Madam Asha Binala, CEO of Media Convergency, my friend and colleague, Dr. Flora Tabarazwa. I'm quite happy to see you here. We worked together at COSTECH, and I'm happy that we are here together again. And my little younger sister, Naamini. Wherever I go, I have a relative, and that is my younger sister. Please just wave. She's a very good programmer. Naamini Yonazi, thank you very much for joining me this evening. My friend Nazir, quite happy to have you here again, my friend. And other friends, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. But again, without forgetting Mr. Sergio Valdini, Deputy Representative of UNDP in Tanzania. Thank you very much for joining us. Na wasalimu kwa jina Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania. I had a small, thank you very much the MP for urging us to be there, to be counted. Actually today, just a small one, a friend of mine asked me, will you please send me, he was joking of course, will you please, on Monday, will you please send me a message that if you can, he's in Morogoro, can you please travel to Dar es Salaam for a seminar on census? So another friend of mine constructed a message. I wish I could just read that message. It was quite interesting. That yes, please, you are invited to Dar es Salaam to come for a census workshop, and please ensure that you come with your wife. And on your arrival, please report to the nearest police station before you go for a workshop. So it was quite funny this afternoon. We had this conversation. Thank you to Mr. Munaku for laying infrastructure for that at least we can conversate. Before I deliver my keynote speech, I'd like to just highlight some few things. Thank you very much for the panels that we had this evening. Actually, I was asking myself, should I just come and comment or read my speech? Because whatever you say this evening is actually what I had planned to read. And when we were discussing, particularly on the pillars, on what we are working on, and Honorable Nema, just to assure you that we're working on your suggestion to on the Parliament, from the Parliament, and currently we are in the process of acquiring a consultant to make sure that we design a relevant and robust framework for community networks in Tanzania. So it's not that we have left it out, no, but as you understand, the government has many stakeholders, and we are working on public resources. So it is something that has to be looked at very carefully, thoroughly, for the benefit of everyone. Because this is a country and resources are ours. And as you understand, particularly when you talk about frequencies, you cannot make frequencies. And therefore sharing of frequencies, utilization of frequencies is quite key that need to be considered carefully. So we're working on that. And the pillars, that was quite interesting. And thank you very much for inviting us. Dr. Flora is one of the known scientists, and quite happy to have her in this panel and forum. And when you recognize her presence, the academia is there. And thank you very much for inviting the academia. And please, next time, ensure that you have many more from universities, technical education institutions, VETA, et cetera, because we want innovations to come from there. And there are three pillars that I think are important whenever we are working on policies or innovations in our country. And one is people. So everything that we do has to be centered around people. In terms of I'm quite happy that somebody touched this evening that people are platforms nowadays. Therefore, their confidence, mindset, skills, awareness are quite key in terms of developing digital economy in our country. But of course, we need to work on infrastructure and technology. And here I will separate technology from services. Because in services, that's where we also have to invest on content. Because people need to consume content through infrastructure and technology. But again, the contribution you made this evening, that the legal and regulatory frameworks that are supportive for the data to flow, for knowledge to flow, product and services to also flow and flourish in our country. So I just wanted to highlight on those things that as government we are looking at to develop and to make sure that Tanzania becomes a hub of ICT innovations and development in the world. I think it's possible. And through collaborations, it's quite interesting, and I'm quite happy to have Mr. Munaku with me this evening. He is the driving force behind all the new innovations that we are doing in the ministry at the moment in terms of, thank you very much, sir, in terms of making sure that infrastructure is available. Last year, he had budgeted for about 1,880 kilometers of fiber to be laid in a country. But later he thought, said, no, let me collaborate with TANESCO. And that made us to leapfrog to 4,442 kilometers of fiber network in a country. So you can imagine how far we can reach and ensure that many more people can get access to the digital economy and participate, of course, into their digital economy. There's one more thing that I like to highlight and touch this evening, and this is how many cybersecurity experts do we have here in the room? How many? Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Now, meaning you are the fourth, I know, and many more. And of course, Dr. Nungo also know that you're in that area. Let me challenge you, my friends. I really appreciated somebody called Mr. Cover. Ever heard about Commander Cover? Commander Cover taught me a very good lesson in the days that he was sitting as the commander wa Kanda Maalum. If you can remember and recall, he would wake up in the morning and hear that there were some gunshots somewhere and some robbery and what. And he'll come to media and say, you know what? Kila kitu kiko sawa. Sina wasiwasi. Tumedhibiti hali. Mambo yanakwenda vizuri. I liked the attitude of not instilling fear to people. Because if you are given the opportunity to learn, and the custodian of that rare knowledge that you have, I think we also have the duty of ensuring our society that we are at work. And let me tell you, as the PS, I'm at work. And what do I say? We are not sleeping. We all have to come together and make sure that we collaborate to make a safer space for Tanzanians to participate in the digital economy. If I stand up here today and say, I say, tunapigwa, hey, wana tunyanyasa, hey, kule nje kuna migogoro, I think I won't be doing my duty excellently. So, my colleagues, cybersecurity experts, give us confidence. Show us that you're at work, and these people can participate safely in the digital space. I think that's our duty, and we have to fulfill that. I think I should have been there from my comments. But it was quite interesting. Quite interesting, and please don't hesitate to invite me again to this forum, please. But also with my office, thank you very much, the CEOs that are here to join me here this evening. It's quite interesting, and I'd really wish that we have a communique or a document that we can receive in the government, because we run an open door policy. We receive ideas, we like to discuss with people, we like to be advised, we like new ideas. So please don't hesitate to knock on our doors, and we'll also come to you, just like this evening, that we can share knowledge and experiences so that we can all together drive forward our nation. Let me now bring you greetings from my minister, Honorable Nape Moses Nnauye, the very famous, I think one of the very famous ministers in the digital space currently. And I'm proud to be working with him, and he says, habari za jioni. And many greetings from my office and my colleagues as well in Dodoma, Some of them are in Dar es Salaam, but we are quite happy to be invited in this forum this evening, and probably will be also invited in the future forums that are going to come, maybe from your organization or many other organizations. I believe that possibly you also have some other forums, and we'll be happy to participate, not personally, but I have my deputy, I have directors, I have CEOs from many organizations. TTCL, you just heard about TTCL, what we did in Mlima Kilimanjaro recently. So we're going to do more. Maybe Mount Meru, Mount Oldonyolengai, who knows? We are already in Dar es Salaam. We are already at Goba, so you can also clap for us. Being there is not easy. It is also a challenge, but also we at the ministry, we are challenged with the duty of making sure that Tanzania gets and enjoys the benefits of the fourth industrial revolution, and which is actually the theme of this forum this evening. And we are quite happy that we have friends and colleagues to participate with, to collaborate with, and to work together with. So, if I can say, Mungu wabariki sana. Special thanks to Madam Asha Binala. Thank you very much for inviting us and making sure that this forum is possible in collaboration with other partners, COSTECH, UNDP, and these beautiful faces this evening, which I don't want them to get tired because of my speech. But I'm happy that we are here all together and made this forum possible. We are working to ensure that Tanzania becomes a digital economy, a super connected nation, and we have many initiatives that we are working on now. We are expanding the reach, the capacity, and the extent of the national NICT BB, the National Fiber Backbone. Recently, we completed our own operation on physical addressing system, which I'll also encourage you to download the NAPA application to your phones, and that is going to help us a lot to navigate this country, but again to ensure that products and services reach our people. Initially, if you want to give direction to somebody, you say, okay, ukifika pale kuna muuza maembe na muuza madafu. Sasa wale moja yuko mbele, moja yuko kata kushoto. Ukikata kushoto, nenda mbele kidogo utakuta kinyozi. Sasa hapo kwenye kinyozi, muulizie kinyozi. Usipomkuta, nenda kwa nyumba kidogo inauza mandazi. But now, we want to make sure that everybody is reachable. Your house is well numbered, the street names are available, and I'm quite happy that when we go to regions, at some point we saw some funny vibaos circulating in the internet. But let me tell you, that's a very big step forward. Very big step forward that people can feel that whatever that we can do, we want our street to be named. We want our houses to have numbers. We want to struggle and have and know our postcode. So with the physical addressing system, we assure that services, products can reach people and enhance the participation of our people into the digital economy. The government, under the strong leadership, somebody say this evening, and the power is in the hands of women. Yes, we all understand and we appreciate that. Under the leadership of our Excellency Samia Suluhu Hassan, the President of Tanzania, is promoting digital economy, and we have heard about that this evening. We don't have any other choice. Otherwise, our nation will be left behind, and we don't want to stay and live in a country that is behind in terms of digital economy. And I believe that if we work together, it is possible to leapfrog and take the benefit of digital economy in Africa, in a country in Africa, but again, around the world. We want and we are determined to make sure that Tanzania becomes an exemplary country in terms of digital services, innovations, but again, digital pride. I wish to thank and applaud everyone who is here this evening, because it has been possible to discuss and advise. We take seriously what we discuss this evening, and we are going to work on them. I'm happy that my director of ICT is here, making sure that he jots down and summarizes. I believe we're going to receive a summary of this meeting and provide feedback as well. Please don't leave us alone. We want you, we want to make sure that we work together and push our country forward. Again, on behalf of the Minister of Information, they say it's the longest name. Yes, it is the Minister of Information, Ministry of Communication, and also it deals with information technology. So you can decipher the magnitude of work that is in there. Information, communication, and information technology is quite long. And of course, that's why we have tough people like Munaku, Justina in there to make sure that information is available, communication is available, but again, information and technology leapfrog in our country. So on behalf of the ministry, on behalf of our minister, Nape Moses Mnawi, we thank you very much and welcome you to the ministry, welcome you to Mtumba in Dodoma, but again, welcome you to Tanzania ya kidigitali, which is possible. Asanteni sana, nashukuru sana.
Dr. Yunazi, unavyoelekea kwenye kiti chako utakutana na mtu kutoka nje, utakata kushoto, ukishapata kiti utakiangalia, alafu utakivuta nyuma. Pembeni yako utakutana na baba mwingine ambaye amevaa tai nyekundu. Usipomwona yule, pembeni yake kuna mdada ambao amevaa tuna move kutoka huko. Thank you sana Dr. Yunazi. Another hand of applause to all the efforts that have been done by the Ministry of Information Communications and Information Technology. Asante kwa sana kwa salamu tumezipokea. Waambie kwamba the innovation and tech ecosystem tuko tayari to not necessarily make sure kwamba it's a possibility, but I love your word, you said it's inevitable. And we're here to make sure kwamba it's a flourishing reality. Now, without further ado, I'd like to bring to the stage Mr. Sergio Valdini, who is the Deputy Representative, Resident Representative for UNDP Tanzania, to share our closing remarks for the evening.
Thank you, and what an honor to be able to give the closing remark to this wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Jim Yonazi, Permanent Secretary, Dr. Amos Nungo, Director General of COSTECH, Dr. Moses Swanga, Director General ICT Commission, Asha Habibullah, CEO of Media Convergency, invited guests, but let me really include already Honorable Nema, Peter, Risha, Nguvu, Flora, Jones. What an amazing evening I had. It's my indeed first of Innovation Tech Forum. I regret that I wasn't in the previous one. I hope to be invited to the next one. Has been for me a truly experience to hear about this sector that probably I didn't know. I realize. So I really want to thank you for what I have learned this evening. It's really eye-opening for me. So let me also read the few notes that definitely, I want to comment the wonderful, insightful discussion, indeed, that has occurred, and acknowledge the work that done by Media Convergency and our team to make this possible. and to have this event today. This is part of UNDP support, and we understand the importance as UNDP to have platforms like these ones to engage in conversations. I think one key word that I can pick from the one panel is collaboration, is to have really this sort of breaking and the silos or enhancing the synergies.
Nimefurahi. All right, everybody, we have come to the end of our event for today. I just want to say thank you for everybody who has been joining us online on YouTube, engaging throughout. Thank you for being a part of the conversation. Thank you for sharing it with everybody in your space. Thank you for making sure that despite the fact that we have physical constraints, that you're not here physically, we have not let that, or you have not let that stop you from engaging actively in this conversation. So, popote ulipo, unajua wewe ni champion. We have received some of your questions. We've made sure, I hope you have received the answers you require. If you have any concerns, any comments, please do keep sharing, and our team will make sure that we get those questions, concerns, comments, and make sure that they're responded to. To everybody else who is here, like I said in the very beginning, please do make sure that you're taking photos, post them online, hashtag Innotech Forum. That's INNO Tech TECH Forum FORUM. At hashtag Innotech Forum, hashtag Mitandao TZ, and also tag Media Convergency, Funguo Program, and let's keep going on with that conversation. And now we are moving on to a very important aspect of tonight. Wanasema kama hili yalitokea inamaanisha event haijatokea, na haya ni mafuta. Ndiyo, lakini ndiyo ni mafuta ya maisha yetu mtandaoni. Hii ni content ambayo ulikuwa unazungumzia Dr. Yonazi, na hizi ni picha. Bila picha hatuwezi kusema kwamba tulikuwepo. And so this is the data that we are uploading online, Mr. Peter. We're freely giving data. So I'm going to share the progression in which we're going to take these photos, and I'm going to ask you to come onto the stage. First and foremost, I'd like to ask our guest of honor, Dr. Yonazi, to come onto the stage. I'm going to ask Mr. Sultan from UNDP, Mr. Valdini, karibu sana. I'm going to ask Madam Asha Abinala onto the stage. I'm going to ask you, Dr. Nungu, to also join us on the stage for a photo. We have a chair pale nyuma. We're going to start here. I'm also going to ask Honorable Neema Lugangira to also join us on the stage. Nadhani tunge namba kwa zima msuli. Yeah. Asante, I'm going to ask Ms. Justina Mashiba, CEO, Universal Communication Services Access Fund, as well as Dr. Nkundwe, as well as Dr. Jabir to join us on the stage.